We have been live.
Yeah, but he's like 10 seconds.
Hello, my friends. My good space friends. Hope you're having a great day. We're having a good little time here. I got together some folks. You may recognize some of the names on screen. I thought it'd be a time for a good talk. We do one of these podcasts every month, Citizen Central. We do them live right here on Twitch or YouTube if you're watching. And for everybody else on audio platforms, thanks for listening. But Star Citizen's at a bit of a turning point, in my opinion. We've been on the long road to 4.0, and it has been, it's been long.
This road might as well have been laid down by the Romans as how long it's been since it's been started building.
This one's been circumnavigating the world. But today I wanted to get these folks together to talk about this kind of pseudo content drought we're in, our feelings leading up to 4.0, a little bit of comparison to the lead up to 3.0, but also just honestly some honest opinions on like where this game is right now, how you guys are feeling about the near and long-term futures. So thank you all for joining me, folks. I'm gonna let you go ahead and introduce yourself to the good people of chat. SaltEMike, start us off.
I'm SaltEMike. I stream Star Citizen sometimes, very rarely now, and YouTube videos about Star Citizen. Do a weekly like roundup of the news and a podcast, and yeah, so that's me.
Cool, that's him. Morph.
Hey, I'm Morphologis. I do YouTube content on Star Citizen and other science fiction games, and a lot of it's architecturally focused, and I also stream on Twitch. You can find me there as well. I also have a TikTok account and an Instagram and a Twitter account as well, and kind of pushing those. Yeah,
I've seen his dances. Have you guys seen Morph's TikTok dances?
Yeah, it's great.
They're very
no
good.
way, seriously? I don't have TikTok.
No.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, are we doing Star Citizen focused?
Are you gonna
TikTok
make
dances?
I was gonna say, are you gonna make me actually do the TikTok dances, my dances on TikTok more? Is that what it is? I have to challenge you. Do we have to have a dance off at CitizenCon?
If you want to pose a threat, man, come at me, bro. Dance off.
You have to bring the space helmet though. There's no AstroPub TikToks without the space helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Tree, my man.
Good morning. I'm Tree0311. It's 0311, but 0311 is my old MOS. I do Star Citizen content. Mostly, I just follow the development in depth. I do two podcasts: the Pathfinders podcast with Nazarus. We stream live on Twitch, and then I post it to my YouTube after that, which is just youtube.com/@Tree0311. Same thing on Twitch. It's just Tree0311. And then I also do the Armchair Admirals and Generals podcast, where we look at Star Citizen features and gameplay, myself and other veteran and military members of the Star Citizen community, and just look at how things sort of have some loose, some a little bit more tight parallels to real life experiences in the military or military related things. So like recently we've been talking a lot about resource management and components with people, like Night Cobb, who's a nuclear engineer on a nuclear sub, and how that's kind of relevant to what we're hoping we're going to get in Star Citizen. Those sort of conversations. So it's a lot of fun. And I occasionally do gameplay streams, and that's why I'm positive about SC, because 19.1 has been treating me really well.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming in. Thank you all, actually. I'm going to go ahead and give everybody a warning here before we get started that I am indeed a little bit sick. So if you see me careening off the side of the camera for like a sneeze or something, don't worry. I'm good. I'll be right back. Guys, how long have you all been covering this game? Because I know Pub, Mike, Morph, you guys...
introduce himself.
It's okay. I don't have to introduce myself. Everyone here knows me.
I thought you introduced yourself. Oh, we were just cracking jokes? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Pub, give us the introduction. My bad. I hate this guy. Sometimes I just don't like it when he says hi.
No, it's just, I've been on so many Space Tomato podcasts at this point. Everyone knows who I am.
It's part of the show.
Yeah. I'm the guy that Tomato riffs off in the background with those like those stand-up hosts where they have that one guy just like, oh, you're so funny.
Makes me feel good about my jokes.
My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley. I run two channels. I run TheAstroPub, which is twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and youtube.com/TheAstroPub live. where I cover space content, mostly Star Citizen, but we'll be playing things like Armored Core and Starfield when it comes out. And then I also do a lore YouTube called The Astro Historian, which again, mostly Star Citizen, but I've done lore on Cyberpunk, on New World, which was, but I've also been doing some stuff on Starfield as well. So if you want to know more about the lore of Star Citizen, check out youtube.com/theastrohistorian. And if you want to know more stuff like this, it's I kind of do conversations, the podcasts, and gameplay on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub.
Some very good podcast episodes, by the way. I think everybody in here has been on it at some point.
Yeah, every single person in this room.
Yeah, we've all... that's part of the great part about this community. We've all worked together before. We've all kind of talked and chatted, so it's really nice to be able to link up and just chat like this, a little bit candid, a little bit prepared. I know you guys got some stuff prepared.
But that was cutthroat, as you think?
What were you guys... So when did you all start covering this game? Because I'm pretty sure, I think somebody said in chat, we've got like a half century maybe between us. Some of you have been around here for almost 10 years, right?
Oh yeah. I might be over that now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at
I think
my
Mike
social
is
blade.
the oldest
definitely.
content.
Back when he was
I just
twerk.
found my first video. I'll post it
Yeah.
actually. Here, let me post it in podcast room chat. This is my first video I posted 6 years ago. Count me in.
Your first
That
Star
was it, so
Citizen
6
video?
years. My very first Star Citizen video, yeah.
Nice. Okay, and then Pub, when did you start?
I started as the Berserker 01 in 2014.
Right.
But I started the AstroPub in 2016. So 2015, 2016. I can't remember exactly when. My anniversary recently popped up when I started the AstroPub in January of 2016.
Okay.
So.
And then Tree, how about yourself?
I'm a baby content creator, even though I'm probably the oldest one in the room. I've been making content for less than a year. I've mostly just been throwing money at the people on this screen like they're space strippers for a long time, and it's just it's something that I've always admired because I'm not a creative person, so watching the videos and seeing the conversations has always been something that's really fascinating to me. And I was like, you know what? I want to see if I can actually do that. And so I've made a couple of short form videos. It's been a really fun learning process, trying to figure out, okay, how the heck did Morphologis do that? Or what on earth, what on earth did Space Tomato do to make this happen on screen? And so it's just been fun to learn how to do those things in a very amateurish way, while also trying to figure out lighting while being super bald.
I think we all feel like amateurs, to be honest, on YouTube. It never gets comfortable.
To give you context for Tree has been one of my oldest Patreon supporters for the Astro Historian, which goes back to like 2016, 2017. So while he may have not been doing content, he's been following the project for
been making it happen.
8 years.
Yeah. So. I'm a veteran original backer. I've been following in great detail, and that's sort of how the podcast got started, because Nazareth was like, hey, how do you always have like a citation for everything? And it's just, I have a research background in my real life job. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, instead of doing clinical research, I'm going to look up everything for everything. And here's the link. And that's why I like what you've been doing a lot, especially recently, Space Tomato, is here's the video. Here's exactly what they said. Here's the timestamp. Set your expectation based off of this. And if they don't meet that expectation, that's their fault, not yours.
Throw some pitchforks.
Yeah.
Well, between everybody here, we've got a lot of history of following Star Citizen together. We're going to do a little bit of a Q&A at the end of this, folks, if we have some time. So the links are in chat for those of you who are here live. If you want to throw some in, or anybody who's added some in the Discord throughout the week, we will try to get to those. But let's start out. Let's dive straight into things. I want to hear opinions, guys. How are you feeling right now about this lead up to Alpha 3.20 and ultimately what we all realize is the second half of the year drought leading up to CitizenCon? What are your opinions right now? SaltEMike, you could start us off.
Okay. I mean, I know that there's going to be some previous features that'll get some updates in 320. Like you have to assume that we haven't heard about yet. But obviously, things being mostly Arena Commander focused, I would imagine most people here are most interested in the PU, right? So these things are, so it makes this upcoming patch a little less exciting personally. While I still might have a lot of fun playing those things. And how I'm feeling now, I don't know. I mean, the last 2 patches have been obviously extremely rocky, but if you look at the content that's in them and what they've done, it's like, okay, they have a more forward focus on like actual video game. So for me, I think I've been overall more positive feeling than I've been in previous years, like time frames. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is like just focused on the what features do we have and how are they fun? And for me, mostly the answer would be yes, more than no, than every other year I've played this game. So
Yeah, you're usually pretty tuned into the game right now, as opposed to like the next patch or year or something of features. Like your content generally seems to focus on is the game fun right now? Yeah.
Why would I care about anything that they have to say about what they're doing in the future when I've been around the whole time to see that everything that they say is never really coming in the time frame they make it seem like, right? They've mostly done a good job of like, hey, all the way back in 2012 we said we wanted to do this specific thing, and you do kind of see the steps of those things happening, and they're kind of sticking to a lot of the stuff that they've said they want to do. But we've also seen a million things come on and off the roadmap so many times that it's like I can't put the energy into that. It just makes no sense.
Yeah. How about anybody else? How you guys feeling?
I'll go next.
Go ahead, Paul.
Mine's pretty short, which is just feeling all right. I'm not overly enthusiastic about 320, but I'm not overly negative about it. There's some cool additions, like missions that they're going to be doing. You know, a couple ships, especially the whole sea. I'm interested in seeing what the new cargo system that they've been creating for the whole sea is going to be like. If we'll see some more changes in the what is it? The economy to support the whole sea. So, like, I'm interested in seeing what's going on with 320. I don't think it's going to be a super hype patch for a lot of folks. But it's nice that Arena Commander is no longer an afterthought. And to see the Arena Commander team, who's worked really, really hard, and I've been following their progress throughout the last couple of years, to see that working really, really hard, like actually taking basically what was an abandoned mode and bringing it up to speed. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Yeah. But as Mike said, most people don't really care about Arena Commander. Most people are here for the PU. But it's nice to see that system, which could be used in the PU and be used in the future to support the game and people playing and learning how to play the game, get updated because it needed the help. So
yeah, I mean,
I just want to clarify what I meant real quick with that is I think after this patch, we'll see like how did all this work on Arena Commander support the PU, and then that'll be like, go Arena Commander for me. So that's kind of what
like the experimental modes and stuff like that. You know, the fact that they're putting in like tonk battles and stuff like that. It's like, okay, cool. So they're testing to see how the ground battles will actually function. And we saw that similar when they were working on Theaters of War, even though Theaters of War disappeared into the ether. We know that some of the updates they did for it improved the PU, like giving the railgun, the shoulder-mounted railgun, the Scourge, an actual ability to shoot ships because before it was garbage. And like, we probably need to overpower that a little bit just to make it valuable as what it's supposed to do. And so we saw an improvement in PvP and combat in general. So,
what do you guys think of Arena Commander being a place where people can play privately, solving the problem in which you see a lot of people have coming in saying they would like to see private servers in Star Citizen so that they don't have to worry about getting attacked by some random person? If they started to make Arena Commander less just combat and more like try out any form of gameplay in a closed environment, you think that would solve that problem for those people?
I think you're talking about the tonk battle that got completely destroyed.
I just mean in general, like over years, we've been hearing people wanting private servers, private Star Citizen experience. I don't want to have to deal with other people kind of stuff.
It could support it, but not anytime soon. I don't think. I mean, they'll have very specific modes, but the like customization of it is going to be a long way off. But it has the potential to do that. Yeah, I can see that being the place to do it. It makes a lot of sense because it's it's a simulation. It's supposed to be a place to practice in lore. So having that, I mean, Paul would know best. Having that be the way you support that type of practice seems like it would make the most sense, as opposed to say, hey, everybody get 30 tanks and let's go to this location and blow them up, which would be like really expensive just to play around with, like in the universe, right? So I suppose.
Yeah.
Tree, how about you? Do you have any expectations, feelings about 320?
I've been super stoked with 319.1 just because I watched. I've had to be very empathetic about the whole 318 and 319.0 experience because I was on active duty for multiple months in a row and I didn't get to play any of it. And so I was just watching everybody else, watching, people stream, watching people play, watching content creators. And I'm like, God, this is awful. This is really bad. But then from that sort of far back, point of view, be able to see the progression of that development branch and how it's gotten better. And now that I'm home and I've been playing 319.1 pretty regularly, and I've streamed it a couple of times, and I've had a really good experience compared to what it has been. And so I'm excited about the progression and the further stabilization, because holy moly that we did need it. 320 doesn't bring a lot in terms of gameplay to the PU, but at the same time, like I get hyped for other people when they're excited about things, and there's a lot of whole sea hype, even though I think it's premature because we don't know to the extent of the economy stuff, it changes, but if people are excited just to get their ship, then more power to them. I'm happy for them. I think the thing about 320 that I'm most excited about is just continued progression on the from 318. One of the big things that made it into the monthly reports is I think it was in the engine part where they talked about months worth of refactors and that are getting brought in to the next branch or next major patch. That's 320. And so if 320 is supposed to be, big caveat, because those refactors could not work, but if it's supposed to be a continued progression from what we initially had at 318.0 through 319, 319.1, then that's a good thing. We're getting more and more stability, better and better performance. I'm happy for that because 319.1's been treating me well. I'm hopeful that that there's going to be a few little other quality of life things, but as far as PU gameplay, unless you're just an avid hauler and you're really excited about the little things that we're getting in terms of cargo, then I don't think it's a whole lot, but I'll just take stability at this point and improvements to performance, both server and client side. The only other thing about I think the big thing that I'm excited about for the Arena Commander stuff is I'm primarily a dropship pilot. I like to go from space to ground as fast as possible without going splat. And if I can practice that and practice my dropship maneuvers just in the free flight on, Green, I think is the planet that the racetrack are on. If I can practice that and splat as many times in Arena Commander as I need to get good, get good scrub, then that's a huge win for me. And I know that there's probably going to be more opportunities for other people to do other niche things that they want to practice and get good at without, somebody, pad ramming them or just ramming into them, period. And having to do the whole reset part.
Well, I do think that there are some things with 320 that I kind of was expecting to see, but I hope that the engine changes, like you mentioned, bring some sort of a couple fixes to some of the things that have been plaguing us since 318. Because I do remember them saying, I think that was the June monthly report, maybe June or May, where they mentioned that all of the stuff the core engine team had been doing, they finally were going to get it into the next update. I hope that's true. I hope that happens. You made a good point about the whole C2, that like we don't really know everything that's going on with that, but people are getting their ship. And big topic at the end of last year was about the backlog and which ships are they making and all that stuff. Would you guys say that them getting a ship out from the backlog, especially one like the Hull C, is something to be positive about if it's not also coming with its intended gameplay?
I think it's tough. I think dealing with the 35-year backlog of ships is a big deal. It's a huge backlog that they need to be getting done, but one ship's not going to solve the problem, and it's not an indication of any improvement in pace for production of or fixing the backlog. Really, I think it's more of a case of, and this is going to sound really cynical, but them just not having a headline ship to make sales for the next patch, because we know the Spirit's not making it into 320. So, and they haven't really had a headline ship this year. The Fury was really popular for a short time. It didn't sell very well. You could see it in the sales this year. It hasn't been as good as last year. I'm pretty sure they were thinking, well, we need to get some kind of ship in to make those sales. I know it sounds cynical, but it's a business. So, and for that reason, I think that if you're going to be looking into the Hull C as indicating like any sort of new gameplay coming in other than what they've said, I think that you might be too new to Star Citizen to understand that if they don't say explicitly in the cards that that's what they're doing, they're not doing it. Don't ever read beyond the cards.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that. Like if all they say you're going to fly into a place and boxes are going to appear and it's going to be up to 32 SU boxes, that's all you should expect. There'll be no economy changes. There'll be no other ships that use the 32 SU boxes unless they said it. Because you know why? Because in the past, you can see from past updates, for even the smallest things lately, they've been adding cards for them to kind of fill out that roadmap to make it look like there's maybe more than there actually is.
Yeah.
This is probably going to be the most cynical I'm going to be, but I completely agree that releasing the Hull C in advance of Quantum and in advance of the now on the progress tracker cargo missions is entirely about money.
It is. I mean, like, they said it was going to break the economy. What's changed?
Yeah, they're going to sell. They'll sell it in a package or in some sort of deal at CitizenCon and during IAE. And I've been saying that it's premature to release it without those things. And yet here they are releasing it after talking about how those things are in active development, but they're just not yet. Not yet. You know, soon TM. But we're right in advance, the two biggest events of the year, second to Invictus Launch Week. And, you know, if people are happy to get their ship, then more power to them. But I'm not going to be, I'm not going to try and paint this pig into anything other than it is. Yeah, they're not going to sugarcoat it and be like, yeah, no, they need to make money. And is that a bad thing? No, they got a business to run. They, you know, the other flip side of that coin is in order to produce more ships, because they talked about how they've been working so hard on the ship pipeline and hiring more people to then produce said ships. They have to be able to hire them. They have to be able to retain them. So they have to make money. And
pay for the Turbulent acquisition.
Got to pay for the Turbulent. Well, I mean, that's where that big old surplus from last year came. Where do you think that went? You know, the secure Turbulent. But if they're talking about adding more ship teams, well, that's going to cost money. So they have to continue to, you know, do they have to break more records? Do we need another 33% increase over last year? No. But they, you know, you can look and see in their annual reports what their expenses are. And when they tell you how many people they have on staff, we know within a margin of error what their annual expenditures are. And if you want more ships, they need to continue to raise money. And so I'm not going to begrudge them too much, but I'm also not going to, you know, and then things don't always line up. You know, it is what it is. But if they don't line up and then the ship is coming out right in advance of the sales, let's call it what it is, folks.
Well, I remember back when the Raft came out, and that was the patch that we were hoping for the cargo refactor, and that was a while ago.
That was the most mad I had ever seen you up to that point. I was like,
wow.
Let's go.
I was just looking at that video today.
If the Raft wasn't such a well-designed ship, I think people would have been a lot more salty about that. You know,
well,
it's the only ship you can't pirate right now. Just saying.
I'm gonna be the salty one, because like that was the Raft was the thing that made me go, all right, CIG just isn't trustworthy when it comes to some of these statements. I mean, they've made other statements, obviously, but like compartmentalizing each team and what they did. The fact that they only a couple of months before they were like, we're not going to release any ship without its full gameplay, and then like 3 months later they released the Raft without its full gameplay, and we're just like, oh, so this is a technical, this is a weasel word.
Yeah, and it was
technically it works, you know, even though its gameplay doesn't actually function, and that's why when I saw the Hull C was added to the roadmap myself, I was like, is this actual functionality, or is this it's just released because it's done and we're tired of leaving it out there because it could technically work?
And it feels like Tree, like you were saying, things don't line up. I think they did want to have the freight elevators and stuff in for the patch with the Hull C, because they started talking about how the Hull C would get into the game towards the beginning of or maybe even last year. They said something like, this is the last time it'll be on sale before it's in game. So they had like that long-term plan that it was going to be in game at some point this year, and they just I think it's the USPU team that's working on the cargo refactor stuff. Just the work wasn't done in time at the same time, but man,
it's soon TM enough. But
I would not expect cargo elevators to help with Hull C in its initial release, because they haven't even talked about how that's going to work for ships in space. It's only for
I've been screaming
it's
about
only
that.
a module. It's only a module for the hangars. That's it. That's all they're getting. That's all we're getting. So don't set your expectations low for that. They definitely need to develop some kind of new station module that allows you to get cargo off. I mean, it should have been the cargo module that they add along with the cargo decks, but that's a separate discussion to have.
Yeah,
anyway.
the cargo decks.
What we're seeing, what they showed us with the Hull C video, is like the soft death equivalent for resource management and engineering. That's all that it is, because that's not the final product. Here's the polished prototyping that we could get done in time to release the Hull C for 320, and there will be more later. Because we're also waiting on vehicle tractor beams. Yeah, I think it's great.
I love this stuff. I've been calling for this stuff for years. Put in whatever you can do to make each thing as fun as possible. I mean, we can be critical of them, of that statement that they made. Absolutely. We're not going to deliver ships without their gameplay. We're never going to do a reclaimer again, which, okay, sure. But there's definitely some examples of where we're close to that. But for me, it's like, all right, we've made the Hull C functional. I think they've also made some statements of the idea of like, well, we don't exactly know what's going to happen, right? I saw one little sneaky statement about that of like, we don't know what's going to happen when this thing explodes. We don't know what's going to happen with all these entities on it or whatever. But if you do the math, 32 SCU boxes are less than the amount of entities that are in a Hull C now. So it should technically be better, but who knows? So there's a lot of things that they need to figure out with this. But to answer the original question, the Hull C is the worst example of a backlog ship, because it's been done in almost all of its aspects outside of the tech to make it work. Did they even really get a backlog ship out as far as art goes? This is a different kind of thing when we're talking about the
developer
pipeline.
Hours. Yeah, because the issue is the developer hours for developing those ships, and they already had most of the hours into that. It was the engineering part of it, the modularity of it, that they needed to get sorted. And that was an engineering task. It wasn't like a ship team. I think the majority of the time they spend
the ship art section, you almost never saw anything on it, right?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
They showed us the art for that years and years ago. The Hull C. I recall them.
Yeah,
and they've been teasing it too. Like they teased us last year about it.
Yeah, I'd say they did say that they finished it 2018, 2019. It was done, and then they were like, we need to do the art and the interiors and stuff like that. So they, and the reason why is because it's in Squadron. Like that's the reason why it is where it is. They've even said that it's in Squadron. It's a Squadron ship. We need to get it done. So the art was pretty much done as of last year, if I remember following it correctly. Like they had pretty much finished the complete update by like November of last year.
Yeah,
so
it was
they
an
hadn't done
ISC.
all the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? Because I think SaltEMike brought up a good point about the raft, or was it AstroPub? How it's immune to piracy.
Yeah.
Unless those 32 SCU containers randomly break up into one SCU containers, how are we going to pirate a Hull C? Do you think we're going to be able to move a 32 SCU container? The 32 SCU containers.
They talked about the multi-tool being overpowered until they bring in the other stuff. So I imagine you're going to just use a multi-tool for now, and then they're going to lower the functionality of the multi-tool in the future. Or you pirate it with another Hull C that has a ship tractor beam.
Pirate Hull C.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I would not expect ship tractor beams.
Yeah.
I don't think those are coming. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just going to be a multi-tool.
That's the other thing that's premature about it.
Thing.
is there's no vehicle tractor beams. That's a huge part of the whole C's functionality. But
and that actually brings me
they
to another
keep showing
point.
them though, too. The tractor beam
That
on the
was
whole
weird.
C as like a thing, right?
So that brings me back to another point. Another addition that's coming in 320, or rather the 3.20 branch, just revealed this week, was the A1 Spirit. And I think a lot of people are wondering, why is that coming before the C1? Now, the only theories I've seen that would make any sense are that they were waiting for the tractor beam to be finished, but then it's like, why would that hold the ship back when the Hull C is coming? What do you guys think of that?
Morph, hide, run. Run,
hide. Actually, I like it. I think the A1 is actually okay. Now that you brought the topic up, I actually really like the A1 because it's not like so invulnerable to damage that you need like 30 people to shoot it, or you have to have retaliate or perfectly positioned. So I'm actually okay and excited for it. What? I don't think it'll be that.
It will be until they nerf it. Somebody's going to misplace a 0 just to
make it invulnerable. Yeah.
Yep.
I will jump on this and say I think it's just an order of operations. They started working on the A1, then they worked on the C1, and they're working on the E1. I think it's just the A1 was the first one they started, and so it's done because like the A1
was the first one they started because they got the raft done quickly.
They did, but the E1 didn't enter gray box until fairly recently, and the A1 was in final art phase in like June or July, and then the C1 was in something close behind it. So I would expect the C1 to be out by IAE, but the A1, they wanted to get it done. They even had like
it's surprising
of the bombs.
Was it in Squadron? Like why the bomber? The C1 seems like it would take less work. You know?
Yeah, it does. It is weird. I think maybe the A1's more attractive and more expensive than the C1.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the C1 added for IAE. If the A1 is in the 320 branch and it's 320.x, and we know that there's going to be a 320.x for Citizen, we don't know, but we can reasonably assume that there's going to be a 320.x for whatever ship goes, flyable at CitizenCon, and then there will be another for IAE. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they could get the C1 done in time for IAE, but I think they're just not ready to commit to it. But I agree. I would hope that it's not far behind, just because it's a Crusader freelancer. Like, what more do you need?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've always questioned with the A2 and now the A1 is like the same thing that we talked about with like the raft or the Hull C. Is, do you guys argue that because you can bomb like a jump town or something like that, that its gameplay is there and it exists? I always thought it was kind of weird where there's like no mission that, hey, bomb this convoy of tanks over here or whatever. And I guess it's because obviously NPCs can't drive tanks yet, although we've seen many monthly reports of that being possible, just not for us
yet.
The
monthly report AI section, man. Oh.
Yeah, it's always just filled with stuff that's not, wow, that game looks sick. Like, I haven't seen it.
I want to play this.
Wait. We're talking multiple different roles that are randomly assigned and driving vehicles and being able to target each other. What is this AI? Where is this AI CIG? I'd like to see it,
But yeah, I always looked at bombers as like an interesting one from that aspect of like, okay, it has its PvP applications, but there's no other application for it outside of like, ooh, like a cool explosion. Nice.
Yeah. I don't.
Do we have those size bombs for the A2? I've never actually used an A2.
I don't think so.
Okay, so it's a different size, right?
Yes.
Yeah, size 5 versus size 9, I believe.
Yeah, but the size 5 bombs were done a while before the A2 was even sold. I remember them testing out size 3 and size 5.
Yeah,
but they're just not
an ISC sprint report, something weird with them a long time ago.
They wanted to release a module for the A2 to swap out for the size 10 for clusters. Yeah, so they wanted the 5s to be used as well as an option. I don't know if they're still going to do that. They probably will at some point, but I don't think it's in the cards with the A1.
Is it the same size going from the A1 has size 5s, and the A2 will also be able to carry just more size 5s? Right?
Yeah, because I think it's the same. Okay. It's the same model that they developed for the A2.
I'd have to go back and look at the number on the different sheet just because I don't care about the A2 all that much other than not seeing it.
Either way, I do agree with you that I just don't assume the gameplay's not there for bombers. And when I see new bombers come in, I'm like, you're not. Nobody's going to use
the
it.
argument for
Why work
so
on
much of the
this,
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can make the argument for so many tier 1s and tier 0s in this game. I mean, even the most complete loop that we have mining, we're mining to what end for those resources to do what and manufacture what and add up to what. I mean, there's so many holes in the game. So
I mean,
if they want to add a bomber to do
Alpha UEC, morph money.
pretty explosions, whatever, man.
But
I mean,
take
I'll tell you
something
this:
like-
it looks good on a thumbnail, and it's fun to watch explosions. So
I
that
am
could be
going to
the
put it
reason
on the
enough.
thumbnail. I am going to do that.
Yeah.
But like, look at the 400i, right? That's a ship that you could argue didn't have its gameplay when it came in, but you can carry a vehicle with that. You can carry cargo with it. It's a multi-crew ship. The A1 they can't even hold cargo. You're literally just carrying around 10 bombs to drop on top of bunkers.
Why you got to stab me in the heart with that 400i comment?
That's another one that got on my nerves, man.
The X1 is my biggest burden that I don't understand why CIG hasn't created the X1. That's a complete discussion. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
The best gameplay that could come out of another bomber would be being able to reload bombs using a tractor beam, like you can do with missiles, except the bombs are very fragile. Because I want to see the accidents happen on stream.
That's good gameplay. That's good, solid family fun gameplay.
It is.
So overall, 3.20 for you guys is like middle of the road. Just where would you put it on
I haven't even
go
answered
ahead.
the first question. But I think my opinion has come through already in this conversation. I'm not super excited for 320, but I think you were also. There's also another part of the question, but maybe I'm mistaken because everyone just started talking about 320. Didn't you ask about the content drought in general this year, or was it more focused towards 320?
I figured since the answers were 320, we could move on to that next.
Okay, all right, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, my answer is still that. I feel 320 is very underwhelming, and there just doesn't. It feels like we're in a really big drop because I'm not into mining, and I don't think the salvage had a whole lot of content to digest with it. So it's just it feels very much like there's been a drought, and this is not going to alleviate that at all.
Well, let's talk about the drought now that you've got us here. And I think actually it'd be best to maybe contextualize it by comparing it to the drought before 3.0, because different companies building it, similar kind of situation with the whole tech holdup. So let's talk about it. How you feeling about content this year?
It's been really, I have to say, it's been really underwhelming. And I think that the interest in Star Citizen is kind of the result of that. I mean, I've seen it in my numbers, and I know a lot of people have as well. Just people are less interested in Star Citizen. To be frank, I am too. I mean, haven't played Star Citizen this little in a long time. I've been streaming mostly other games, and actually, unless I do a Star Citizen video, I've not even been playing it on my free time. It's just I'm having so many issues since 319 as well. I'm glad that you've been having a good experience, Tree, but personally, every single time I play with my community, we have half of our group desyncing. Because we have a global community. I live in Taiwan, and it's impossible for me to play with anybody because there's always somebody invisible. There's always some kind of terrible desync issue. So this year's just been terrible. And also, as a reminder, we've been on the 318 branch for this entire year so far, and I'm not so sure, but 320 might also be the 318 branch. I'm not saying it is. I don't know if it will be, but it might also be the 318 branch. So
I can confirm that it's 100% not. That's the only reason we're getting the Arena Commander updates is because they weren't. So the reason a lot of the Arena Commander updates, this is the craziest thing about 320 and why I don't understand why it's so dead. Like what are people working on is a lot of the updates we're getting in 320 were supposed to be in 319 if it was the 319 branch.
Yeah.
So it's like, dude, what that's the hard part with like, why is it so dead for PU updates? That's what I'm confused about because of that. And then we got more with Arena Commander because it took an extra patch. So it won't be 318 morph, but you know, it is still concerning that like it's not 318. Why isn't there more?
I mean, there are
as well.
I put a list together because I'm making a video on the things that they talked about at the end of last year, going actually through last year that they were looking to get in this year. There's around 16 huge items that we've not heard about really, and probably won't make it in this year. They're massive. I don't want to go through all of them unless you guys want to listen to me rattle off 16 different things, but they're big, and that's what I'm looking at and thinking, wow, like yeah. What is 320 is just Arena Commander. Yeah, a few that are the biggest. You know, like master modes is one of the big ones. Obviously, server meshing, engineering is another big one. Bounty hunting, hacking, AI improvements, the Vulkan integration, the Quanta, persistence hangers and habs have fallen completely off the radar. We've heard nothing about it. All the items associated with the cargo refactor, like cargo lifts, cargo decks, the extra loading bays, ship tractor beams, the new star map, the movement we saw for Squadron 42, the underground facilities. I could keep going. All of those things, like we've not got them in. It's probably because of PES not working like they had hoped. I'm pretty sure that's been a big drag on them being able to get anything in because it's pushing back the entire schedule. I don't know, but it seems to me that's likely the case.
I feel like they lost 6 months, right? I mean, with this.
It does feel that way. Yeah. Well, I mean, it could also be that they were like, since we can't get in. I'm sorry to cut you off, Trey. Let me finish this one thought. I think it could also be that since they figured that they can't because of all of these holdups with the tech, get this stuff in, that they've just retasked many of the teams on Squadron. It's a guess, but we know most of them are working on Squadron. It could just be that more of them are working on Squadron instead of this content for the PU.
Yes, Tree.
Go ahead, Tree. Sorry.
Waiting on the teacher to call on me. So the big thing for me about 320 is if they are working on things for the engine, if they're working on improvements for PES to continue that, they need to get these things in for us to test and break them. It's part of that further progression for both the engine, but also the back end with PES in advance of server meshing. So they need to get these things in. They need to test them. They also are trying to adhere to the 4 patch a year system. This is why 320 is targeted for August. I don't know if you guys have noticed these things, but that's why it's in Evo in July, because they're targeting it for August instead of it being a CitizenCon patch. And I think they're probably doing that, A, because they want to have 4 patches in the year, but B, they need to get these things in advance of whatever they're shooting for a fourth quarter patch. I think the thing that's going to be different with this year is they're going to try and get in a fourth quarter patch. We'll see how well that works out because we all know how those go. But the things that they wanted in for that for the Q3 patch aren't going to be ready for the Q3 patch. And so they're getting in what they can get in order to have that sort of patch branch. Like I think the Q4 patch, whatever, 321 is probably going to be on the 320 branch. And just add in more features that they're already working on, but they just can't get done in time. And
I think that's a valid expectation. Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm going to set my expectation because it's a Q4 patch and we know how those go.
Yeah, so. I was gonna say, don't set your expectations high. They're not gonna pull a big patch of the year off on the Q4. That usually doesn't happen.
This is what Chris wants. This is what Chris is gonna get. Which is what we're going to get.
After 320, any patch is going to feel like the patch of the year.
Yeah.
After this year, anything 321 is going to be the greatest patch you've ever experienced, I feel like.
The other thing I want to caveat is, and I have to say this, and this isn't, I'm not attacking Morph at all because I love Morph, love his content. The thing about Squadron 42 is, yes, there are a lot of people working on Squadron 42. You can use go to shinytracker.app, learn how to use that tool, hop in my Discord, ask Shiny Hobo all about it. It's an amazing tool. It'll tell you everything you need to know. There's a whole lot more information on the progress tracker that we can't see because the website doesn't support it, but is supported by shinytracker.app. There's a whole lot of people working on things for Squadron that are also for the PU. And yes, it takes time to import them, but those are shared assets, shared tech. And I think that there's a lot of things that can be moved over for Star Citizen, fairly expeditious manner, a couple of quarters, that they're coming in very closely on the Squadron side. And so I think it's one thing I always like to caveat. Yes, there are a lot of people working on Squadron 42. A lot of those people, the majority of them, are working on shared items. So they are working on the PU, but they're working on those things in order to get them done in a more polished state. So that way, when they do import the new star map, the new MFDs, the new flight model, all that it's in a more polished state. And that's why these things are taking longer. And so you have to.
The issue with that is this team moved over to Squadron now years ago, and the first thing that we've gotten, and the only thing that we've gotten that was supposed to be in a more polished state, is the multi-tool salvage mechanic. That was the actor feature team was the first one that moved over. That is the first thing that came over. That is from Squadron 42, and I would argue that is not in a very polished state and isn't a very finished system for me. Now, I absolutely agree with everything that you're saying, and it is a very much a we'll see kind of moment for the end of the year, because their plan is at the end of the year is when I think they said it at CitizenCon last year, that at the end of next year, this is when we would like to get these things in. So
they're still not the end of next year.
Towards the end. So let's assume it's definitely the end of the year now that we see the 320, right? And the expectation is star map, of vaulting, and EVA and all the other things that we had seen, right? And if those don't come in and then they're not polished, then it's CIG status quo as always, and their plan didn't work out, and it's obviously going to be a disappointment. But I certainly hope you're right. But it's so hard for me personally to have to just come out and say those things as if they're going to happen. It's definitely a we'll see.
Happen. We just know that this is the plan. And this is what's being worked on.
Exactly.
And we don't know when, but that is, we only have one example. But at the same time, like the UI tech team and the UI feature team was moved over a year and just over a year ago. The actor feature team, the core gameplay pillar team, was a year and a half ago. So it's, these things are taking longer than other features because these people are not working on them in the normal 6-month window that they have for a patch with the whole staggered development thing.
Well, I've got some of this stuff pulled up. I wanted to tell you guys this is exactly what they said at the end of last year. They said towards the end of the year 2023, we should see some of the more Squadron 42 related work arrive in Star Citizen, more flexible player traversal, especially on ladders and ledges, a greatly improved interaction system, FPS scanning, the new star map, MFDs using more performant and flexible building blocks UI system, and much deeper combat AI. Now, that's what was said at the end of last year, and I think that was meant to set expectations based on the idea that PES was going to get, I think they wanted it to be in testing in January and cleaned up like pretty quickly. So clearly they blew past that, but the thing that gets me about that statement is that the preceding statement before that is that there are a host of other exciting features and content we have planned for 2023, including Pyro with its planets, moons, and settlements, item resource management in ships, bounty hunting with a full tracking system, persistent hangars with freight elevators. All of those things were listed before this stuff that was supposed to be towards the end of the year. So I think that's really what's hurting and making it feel like a drought, in that you're saying, like, we're not getting major PU features. We're still kind of seeing the same pace as we were seeing in 318 or during that PES period of time in terms of what they're telling us is coming next. We're not getting that, here's what's next. We don't have any idea what comes after 3.20. 3.20 doesn't have anything big in it to really get people excited. And none of these features, not a single one of these features, except for, I would say, the traversal. I hear that the ledge grabbing is coming in 320 maybe. None of that other stuff, though, is being talked about.
If it's not being talked about even, then I would bet that it's not going to be even 321 that it comes in. I mean, like the way that you were just talking about it, how they wanted to have it towards the end of the year with that other stuff in front, just leads me to believe that all of this stuff is coming next year.
They're saving it for CitizenCon, Morph.
Yeah, right. Okay, if that's all they're saving for CitizenCon, oh god.
Yeah, they got to get two days, right? I would like to kind of in defense of Tree in this as well. I think it's also to put things into context is that CIG takes 6 to 9 months to turn around anything from Squadron 42 into Star Citizen. And I've heard from people who work at CIG that it wasn't just the hand salvage feature, but it was also the salvage hole stripping itself was also a Squadron 42 feature that they put in there. So
Yeah.
like that whole thing was Squadron 42 centric first, and then ported over to the PU.
The reasons they're not in the PU is because they're not done for Squadron yet. And we know based off the monthly reports when salvage was done for Squadron and how long it took to then get into the 318 branch. The delay was due to PES. No, and the Space Tomato, you read off the word, and the verbiage is important. And if you go you look at the letter from the chairman from December versus last year, the verbiage is very different. And it reads as if someone went up to Chris and proofread his letter and then said, no, 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 and then changed it to plan, change it to this and that, because the way things are written is so that they can go back and weasel word the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people take it and then they read it the way they want to interpret it. And then if somebody says something, they can go back and screenshot the hell out of it and say, no, this is what we said. This is the plan. No plan survives first contact with the enemy being PES. But there's a whole bunch of caveats in there that is written in the verbiage, and the community likes to run with it because the letter gets paraphrased and people read into it what they want to hear, and that's not actually what was said. And I'm not defending. I'll never defend CR, but I will read in perfect context and screenshot and quote and timestamp the hell out of things, so that things are accurate.
I don't think it could have been any more straightforward with this one, though.
The thing that
what did they say? Though? They said plan.
No, towards the end of the year, we should see some of the more Squadron 42 related work arrive in Star Citizen.
There's a lot of weasel works in that. There's a lot of weasel works. Maybe, possibly.
Are we going to defend CIG for playing semantics so that they can get away with?
I'm not defending them. I'm just saying this is what they said, and they changed. You go like the language for Pyro and 4.0.
But we know how people read into that. You have to look at like the larger. We can be like, well, we have experience. We know technically they're going to weasel a lot of this, but majority of people are going to read into that thinking that this is something that they're looking to do, and that is their expectation, and those expectations are going to be not met. So
no, I agree completely. Yeah. I'm not excusing. I'm just saying there's a reason that the language has changed from what years ago it was. That we will do this, we will do that too. We should. We plan maybe.
It does say we will also be rolling out the new item resource system. So they do miss a couple words there.
I think I hope you don't feel attacked here, Tree, because I'm definitely not trying to do that. The reason I
hurt my feelings, but it's good. This is what they do. You do it a lot in your videos, SaltEMike, is expectation management. And I try and caveat these things. This is what was said. This is how I'm setting my expectations based off of maybe, should, hope, plan,
same.
Not,
Yeah, and that's like when you at first made your statements, it was like, this is what we're going to see. And I was like, well, we don't know. And I think the biggest part of where I thought, Tomato's camera ripped. But the biggest part of what I wanted to say when Tomato started reading of like, well, look at what they said just before this. How can we set the expectations of they'll even get we can't have any anymore, and we definitely can't make expectations off of CR letters. And it's like it's really hard for me to think this far in the future about anything anymore because of stuff like that. I really hope that's why I said, like, I really hope you're right, Tree, and I can't wait for the day that we get to go, the Squadron 42 stuff is helping the PU, and I really hope we get there. But for me, until I'm at the point where you have to do action, I can't hear words anymore. I don't care if you say should, I don't care if you say will, none of it matters until I'm testing it in Evo, I'm testing it on the PTU, and then I'm playing it on my client. None of this matters anymore because we've had 11 years of bullshit statements that mean absolutely nothing. I mean, and you say you go back and look at all this stuff. I'm sure you see plenty of bullshit on top of the things that they are. And I started out my first statements here of, if you really look back, you still see the vision being the steps being happening, right? But then you also come across a lot of what is this guy talking about? I think, I just think the change in the language and the way they write and say things is interesting because,
honestly,
I hope that somebody is doing the whole the crook thing and pulling CR back, because we all know how that's gone for however long now. And it's just, if you go back and you reread the letter from the chairman from May of last year versus the one in December, it's really interesting to compare and contrast them, because boy, that did not pan out really well with them for that first one. And so they changed a lot of the way it was written.
Well,
and it's still not great for expectation management, but it's,
that's
I think us, like maybe Morph and I specifically, are feeling that letter, even though the words have changed, that we're still not confident in any of them.
Well, that's my angle on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I read this letter, and at the beginning of the year, I made a expectations video in December, and then I got this letter, and I made another one in January. And that one in January, while like I didn't take all of this stuff as being out this year, because it's a lot of good features, I expected at least 2 of these things to show up. Like, if they're gonna say, oh yeah, we want to have this, we will roll this out, I expected there to be a couple of these things showing up. And while they still might show up, looking at the language in this letter compared to the one from May and seeing that improvement that you're mentioning, Tree, but then also now running into the same problem with this one, shakes me. Like, I want to be able to talk about these things and feel confident in them, and I'm losing that.
To support Morph and a little bit, because I mean, Morph, you've also said earlier, it's like, we need to take CIG. We can't really look at CIG and take everything they say at face value, because for expectations for the end of the year patch, we always like, bleh. But at the same time, I think the reason why we likely aren't seeing a lot of these things, and we probably won't see some of these things, it seems, as Morph said at the beginning, I think we all agree, if CIG is talking about it, they're working on it. If they're not talking about it, they're not working on it. We have to see exactly what they say, what they're doing, and they don't expect anything else from that whole list. And I think what happened was 318 blew up in their face. It exploded, and they had to scramble to fix it. And so a lot of things that were planned for release, which were maybe ready to go, PES happened, and now they're going, how do we fix it? See, like this last week where they did the what was it? The hole munching situation, where hole munching, like hole munching isn't going to be here this year because PES is causing problems, so they likely won't be able to finish it, even if because their initial prototypes just say, PES is a problem. And it would be hard to sit here and go, well, how many other problems are occurring because of PES? I think CIG was wildly optimistic at the beginning of this year, because it's in their nature to be optimistic, because a lot of their internal goals are the stuff they share with us, and they don't want to sit there and be like, hey, team of over 1,000 people, we're not going to get any of these major goals done this year. Let's just make sure the game doesn't explode, because it's not how you inspire confidence in those people. Well, but as a result, it sets bad expectations for the community. So
I think that's also where we're kind of seeing a problem this year, is that they laid out these expectations, all this stuff happened, and they haven't come back to us and been like, hey, things aren't going well. Here's what we're doing, mid-year. They said they were going to do a post-mortem. It's
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been 6 months that we've been dealing. Like, we wouldn't be having this conversation if they had told us what went wrong and like said, hey, PES is causing more problems, we got to push things back, this is just how it is. We've acknowledged to them when they did that with the the Santok Yai. We've acknowledged to them when they've done it with other things. We are okay with bad news. Give us the bad news. Let us know what's going on, so we're not sitting here in August wondering what's going on with the patch in September or in August or whatever.
Are we really okay with bad news?
Dude, bad news is better than this,
that's
man.
what's got me. It's what's got me really worried, because you recall the other tech they had before PES and how they went dark on it because they realized it wouldn't work, and they didn't want to talk about it for a year until they figured out something else. I hope to God that that's not the case, but if they're not saying anything with postmortem, worst case scenario, that's what's happened with PES. They need to completely rethink the way PES works.
I think they're doing what Tree said with the with the letter from the chairman, is making sure we don't
Mhm.
because they almost never admit wrongdoing, because I don't know if there'll be legal complications with it. So a postmortem is supposed to be, we fucked up. This is how we're going to fix it. That's literally what a postmortem is, as far as my understanding. I don't know. I just worked in casinos. I'm an idiot. But the idea of a postmortem, I'm pretty sure that it is what it is. Almost never the postmortems are just like monthly reports of this is what we worked on for the most part, and it was what I've seen in the
Yeah.
past. My hope is that we got to be honest in these, because PES was not a good experience for us entirely. I mean, how many people have experienced it to the level of the expectation that it should have been? I got it like one time, and it's like this. It was a server crashed. I was mining a huge quantanium rock with like 5 moles. Server crashes. We wait 30 minutes, and then we try to log back in. We get back into that same server, and we go right back. Even the gadget was on the ground of the rock we broke. Like, everything was there. It was amazing. But it actually doing that consistently for everybody was not an expectation they set either. If you look back at all the information, but it's
Happy
there.
accident.
It was well, I mean, it's working exactly how it will work, but it takes 30 minutes for that server to come back up, because we don't have the replication layer split out or whatever, right? There's plenty of reasons, but I think nobody's expectation would be on August or July 29th that we would be still dealing with what we're dealing with now, CIG included, right?
And I was just looking at
sorry, go ahead.
the server meshing. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I was just looking at the server meshing video today, and the last one they did, they talked about how they were playing and how the next step was going to be. This was like, I think, 5 or 6 months ago, to separate the replication layer from the DGS. And seeing how they've still not done that yet, I think that really sets back their timeline pretty significantly with PES. It's really had a lot of problems if they haven't been able to put that into 3.19 or 3.20.
No matchmaking.
Yeah,
That
no
was gonna be
matchmaking. I mean,
first.
that comes later even. I mean, we're just talking about making the replication layer separate from the DGS.
Right,
And
before that,
not even
though.
talking about. Yeah.
Before that, they said they wanted to harden PES so that we could choose which shard we went into, and then they would separate the replication layer. So we're still at step 1 after 3.18 getting PES in.
As far as we know,
Yeah, as far as we know.
The thing with the postmortem is, and I think this is probably the only reason it's been delayed, and I'm eagerly anticipating it because I like to read, is I think that they'll probably do a combined for the entire 3.18 branch, and they're just waiting for us to get out of 3.19 and into 3.20 and then do it, because it's a postmortem of the whole thing.
Why
it's all one
post it
branch.
2 weeks ago, Tree? Why talk about it 2 weeks ago?
That's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Like, the problem
I
isn't the
agree.
postmortem.
I think it was
always
just
the same thing. They always do the same thing. They always fuck this up, and it's like, how?
Briefing room.
Oh God! Don't mention the
there's-
briefing room.
I mean, I could list off all the times they've done this
Yeah.
exact same thing and never
Yeah.
learned from it. That's
Yeah.
the one problem I have, is that they've done the exact same thing and never learned from it.
I'm just speculating as to why is it taking so long. That's the only reason I can think of, and I wish that they would communicate as to why. If there's a reason, is it just take a long time to write? Are they waiting because we're still in the 3.19 branch and they haven't gotten all the results and all the data? I don't know, and it bothers me when they don't communicate.
Yeah, it's a 2-sentence post on Spectrum that they haven't done, which is,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
The saddest thing is, like, this isn't even a Star Citizen problem, right? This is just a, like, if you follow the project, you see the same thing over and over again, and it has nothing to do with the actual game, and it makes the game look worse than the game actually feels, right? Because you have this, like, icky feeling about this dumb shit that they do, and then you go in the game and it has problems, and then those icky feelings make those problems feel worse. You know, and it just, you apply that stupid stuff to the game that also has stupid stuff, and you're just like, ugh, it sucks. You know.
Yeah. The other thing with the replication layer that I just want to mention, and again, this is one of those things where I think a lot of us read into things where we think it says more than what it says, and they said the step is to separate the replication layer. I don't know, and they haven't clarified if that means a separate branch where that replication layer is separate, prior to 4.0, because separating the replication layer and separating it for server meshing doesn't serve a whole lot of a purpose while we're still single server, single shard.
Yeah.
They need the replication layer separate for when we have multiple server nodes as part of a shard. And so I don't know if it makes a lot of sense for them to make it its own separate branch where they do that, where it doesn't, all it's doing is the replication layer is still communicating with one server node for one shard. It's just separate. And so I don't know if they're going to do that, and they haven't clarified. And so that's the only thing where they said this is the next step. And so maybe they will take that step, but not implement it, because they don't need to do that until that replication layer needs to communicate with multiple server nodes within that server. And so that, that's just me speculating based off what they haven't said.
They didn't say that though. They just said that the next step for them would be to be separated. They didn't say anything about testing it with server meshing. They said that they wanted to do that before doing server meshing. So I think that they want to test it beforehand.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We don't know if that is a test that includes, hey, we're going to do this in 320 or 321. We don't know if that's a separate step, because it's not a huge change, because it's still one replication layer, one server. It's just not on the actual server node itself.
But my point is that it's an indicator of their timeline for where they think they're going to be for like a lot of this big content that they want to get out. Much of it being restricted by the lack of server meshing, and basically not server meshing necessarily, but the ability for you to continually be in the same shard. And if they've not gotten that done yet, it means that they are not going to get in testing at the end of this year like they had originally planned. It's going to be maybe the end of next year. Possibly. I don't know. I'm just being pessimistic here, but it's probably end of next year. So,
and I think, if we looked at the most recent ISC, where, man, was that an interesting little thing where they were like, all right, we spawned all these stations and things, and then you're watching the server FPS drop down to 5, and you're realizing like, whoa, okay, so it's not necessarily player action. It's the fact that players are streaming in these locations. And how impactful server meshing actually will be for everybody if they're able to split a lot of those things out, and to think that we're still not even at, we don't even know if we're out of the initial PES thing. I think that's why I'm so dead set on hearing this postmortem.
I'm
is
with
like,
you, Mike.
Yeah. Where are we? Because we're talking a lot about what's 320, what's 320, what's 321, where we the biggest piece they put in 6 months, not a single dev post. Like, we don't have like Yogi in there, we don't have Elliot, we don't have all these people that are like passionate about what they're doing, passionate enough. I don't want to say it that way, because I think it's saying it very bad about those specific devs. They could just be extremely busy, right? But I see enough
it's
of
an
them
information
post on,
void.
I see enough of them post on Twitter every time a new patch comes out, so they have enough time to write that. It would be really cool if they took a little time and like updated us on where they are now and things like that. Like the void is a big problem, right? If this is open development, consistent communication is really important. If it's just a little post occasionally, that's a good thing as well, right? And that's where I think the biggest problem right now with this year and these patches are, hey, we screwed up, or hey, this was harder than it was, or whatever. Just tell the truth of what happened. And then where are we now? Where are we going in the short term? We all know what the long term is. I don't give a shit about the long term anymore. We know what the steps are for that for the most part. What are the short term steps, and what should we be feeling each patch, so we can give feedback on what we're feeling in each patch. I don't know what I'm supposed to experience anymore, so it's frustrating. That's just where I am, and it's all around communication, and it's got nothing to do with the game developers or the game in so many ways for me. That's just my personal feelings on it. It's just been such a dog shit experience this year.
The drought that we're having right now feels more like an information drought than the content drought like 3.0 was.
Yes.
Yeah,
because
I think we're getting
3.0 we were just
information on
imagining
features.
Yeah,
but
we're
not
not getting
server meshing, not PES. And that's the big void.
Not pillars. Not pillars, right?
Yeah.
And
we're
pillars are what matter here.
We're getting information on features, but we're not getting any information on when. And we know that much of it's behind these technical
the W
features
word?
like server meshing. I know. And the thing is, like,
Demonetized.
I agree with Mike on this, because if we had more information about how things were going with PES and that progress towards server meshing, like if they more regularly updated us on that, I'd feel much better about this year personally as a backer. And not saying as a content creator, because content has been terrible to cover, but like as a backer, I feel much more confident just knowing, like, are they hitting the mark? What problems are they encountering? Do they have plans going forward for how they're going to address these issues, and how far back has this shifted their timeline for it? Like, if they talked about this, we're open about it, I'd be so happy, man. I'd have a completely different tone right now with the way I feel about Star Citizen.
Same.
It'd feel better.
Yeah.
I'll
You in the back, Paul.
Yeah. I don't want to talk over people, but the problem, I think, is a couple of things. And the sad part about this is that this is a repeated thing. This is something that has happened every year for years, and it's something that not just the content creators but community has been asking for a long time. And I think they get some mixed up. I think, and that's the problem, is that often you can get people who are screeching because they just like to screech about CIG and Star Citizen, and then you get the people who are like, "Hey, please tell us about things," and then CIG as developers and as the community folks who are dealing with this, they only have so much bandwidth and time, and things get mixed up, and I think sometimes the wrong lessons are learned. But this problem specifically, I think, is Tomato, you put it the best, which is this is an information problem, not a content problem. This is this doesn't feel like 3.0, because we're getting 320, we're getting 321 probably. We may get a 322. We don't know when 4.0 is coming out at all, but like we're getting content, which was completely different for us who've been around since 2.6.3, where they just didn't give us anything for a year. That was rough.
That put hair on my chin.
But the problem is that this isn't even
white in the hair in my chin.
It put hair on Jared Huckabee's chin too, because he didn't shave until 3.0 came out. But the I think this is, we're talking about the server meshing issue, is the thing that everyone brings up, and I bring up all the time as well. January, we got a part 1 of all of this, and then we haven't had part 2 at all since then. And I think that is more, because if it's just us 4 nerds reading monthly reports and looking at the content, people would be screaming, where is it? The problem is that CIG went ahead and made a video which was confusing, that just made it seem like they were just starting to work on it, which made a lot of people go, what's going on? And then also said it's a part 1, and then we haven't seen part 2 to clarify any of these issues. So it makes it seem like,
I'd like to add in,
go ahead.
That was part of the Road to 4.0 video series, and it was the last episode. They did it for 3 months and then stopped.
Yeah.
Briefing room, server meshing.
Yeah.
Keep doing this, man.
And that's the thing I'm most salty about, is we get lots of information every month and every 2 weeks about the content, the game content that they're working on, and we do see some progress there. And it's I will set my expectations based off of what is shown and what is said, and they are doing nothing to set the expectation for what the progress has been on PES and server meshing. It's that void. And so that's the part that I'm really concerned about, because I have nothing to set my expectations on, and I don't want to lean negative. I'm generally not going to lean negative, but there's nothing setting your left and right lateral limits for what your expectations should be on this major pillar technology. Whereas every couple of weeks and every ISC, every monthly report, you get an update on where they are with this feature and what they're working on with that feature. And so I'm optimistic about the star map, the MFDs, the flight model. I'm not necessarily optimistic about PES and server meshing, because they haven't given me a reason to be. But I'm also not necessarily negative, but I can't help but lean more towards what Morph is saying about they haven't told me anything in 6 months.
We are so blind right now on that.
Other than the in-game progress of stability, which is better, but certainly not where I would hope.
I think to finish up my thought real quickly, is just the problem is that CIG did a video. If CIG wrote it, we would do coverage on it, and couple thousand people would have known about it. But the reality is I don't think the vast majority of the community reads anything CIG releases because they don't have time to, or they don't.
And they don't have to because we're here too.
That too.
Because Board will read it for them. He does a great job.
Yeah.
Actually, that's how I learn about a lot of stuff. I just watch Board's videos.
Watch Board's videos.
Yeah, I tune in.
Some bald or bearded guy will read it to them.
Yeah. But the thing is like that's great. But the idea that we are all the community is I think egotistical. I think we are.
We are not.
We are a small
even
fraction
close.
of the people who actually play Star Citizen.
And people also think that we have pull. We do not.
Yeah, more if I heard you change the game
an
last year.
opinion on something.
Yeah.
No, but people think, I mean, we're a small community of even just the people who pay attention. And then there's all the people who play and never even look online at information for this.
But the point is that because they did that video, it makes it even worse because it was confusing. No one knows what's going on. And then they went silent. People will watch their videos who don't watch us. People will, and that's becomes the problem is that we say that, oh, well, this problem with the, what is it? The burn down or not the burn down. Gosh, I give myself PTSD there with the postmortem as being a thing like, oh yeah, this is something done, but they did it earlier this year. And it's like, if we knew, hey, PES or server meshing is having some struggles or we're reaching some issues, we're working on it. The engine team is now coordinating with them. Some little update, I think all of us would be like, okay, set expectations. 4.0 is coming this year, not coming out this year. But there are people who still think 4.0 is coming out as the last patch of this year, and some people who are like 4.0 is going to take 10 years to come out. And as a result, you have these big, wide berths of expectations, which becomes burdensome on the community, burdensome on my comment section at the very least. And so it's harder to be like, well, that's unrealistic either because it's too optimistic or too pessimistic because, CIG doesn't tell us anything. So it could be 10 years. It could be tomorrow. We have no idea. And that's kind of the
Paul,
problem with us.
We're halfway there. They talked about Pyro 4 years ago.
Living on a prayer? Because that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
actually,
like we're halfway to 10 years because they talked about Pyro about 4 years ago now.
Yeah, that's true.
That's actually a great little transition to an hour and 15 minutes in to our main topic, folks.
Yes.
4.0 has been the goal, like the target, right? They introduced the road to release. I think it was either 2018 or 2019. I'm pretty sure it was CitizenCon 2018 when they finally rolled it out and we're like, okay, we're doing persistence, we're doing org stuff, we're doing server meshing. This is what our goals are. And that's when they started to build up this idea of 4.0, kind of around that time, 2019, whatever. It's been like 3 years, let's say. So much stuff, in my opinion, feels like it's starting to be stacked up in kind of like an expected window for 4.0. The bunkers, AI updates, all these missions, scanning, star map, like a lot of stuff feels like it's going to be part of 4.0. Is it make or break for you guys? If it doesn't come out and perform with all the hype that they've built behind it at this point, are you done with it? Are you going to wait a few patches to see if it smooths out? What are your thoughts on how this should be presented to the community?
I'll start, I guess. But for me, 4.0 is not the make or break. Mm-hmm. I care about gameplay. This is what allows the gameplay teams to finally develop what they potentially want, or I potentially want. So for me, it comes down to is 4.0 the last carrot on the stick? I mean, I can't remember the drama of the tweet that I put out many years ago now of a Grim Reaper with a carrot on a stick. Yeah, my ex.
I'm sorry, gotta do it every time.
Grim Reaper carrot on a stick with server meshing being the carrot and the backers being the donkey that the Grim Reaper's riding, and how mad everybody was. But look where we are 4 years later, right? So it's still the carrot on the stick. As long as that's one of the last technical carrots that we have, and it's not a what was it called before? It was called PES.
iCache.
iCache, thank you. If as long as it's not an iCache situation where it was like we had tech, it didn't work, now we have to go back to the drawing board, figure something out, and now it's about making the game. For me, the make or break point is when the gameplay systems come in, because they don't communicate their design around any of those. So there is very little that we can go off of what Star Citizen the game is. So for me, that's my make or break of, do I like the game? Is this going to be fun? I can't believe I followed it this long. I mean, this is the things I scream at the rooftops about, is you need to tell the people who are spending money and backing your development on what they're backing. And a lot of players don't actually know what the progression systems are going to be like, or anything. I can go on a rant for hours. I'm not going to on this, right? It's just, that is my make or break, not 4.0. It's just, does it allow them to start to actually developing the game? Because I'm so sick and tired of excuse Squadron 42, excuse no server meshing, excuse here, make the game, fix the game. That's my so for me, that's my make or break of, if they don't start developing the game after that, I'm probably out. I don't know. I just don't care anymore after that. I want to play a game.
That's fair. Anybody else?
Yeah, I actually I'm with Mike here on this. I don't know if I'm ever going to just fully abandon the game, even if 4.0 is a bit underwhelming in terms of content. I think that 4.0 is really the start of them creating the more meaningful content, creating the actual game, gameplay loops, progression, the feeling of like you're building towards something in the universe. Like that's where I want to see them go and after 4.0. And again, like what Mike said, if it doesn't start happening within the next few patches after that, I mean, it's going to be harder and harder for me to want to continually look at it and make content on it, because it's just going to feel really deflating. We've been waiting for this big patch, and that's it. Like there's nothing really big afterward to look forward to for a while. That would be really sad. So,
yeah, it's like, I think a lot of people would agree with that. 4.0 is the patch, but a lot of us understand that it can come out and be kind of a train wreck, and it might take a patch or two for it to find some stability or figure out some of the things that maybe didn't launch too well. But that year, whatever year it is that follows 4.0, might be their most important year in terms of setting the stage and setting the tone of the development. Because I agree with you, like we've had this sort of setup where we're getting features, we're seeing some missions, we got locations, and it's all fun and good to play with other people. But I still don't launch Star Citizen like I launch other games. I don't get into it and I'm like, all right, today I'm going to do this because next week I really want to be ready to do this. I sit down and I'm like, what do I do today? Yeah.
Unless you're playing, like, I want to make it very clear, I've had more fun playing Star Citizen in well, I guess I wasn't able to play 318. I never got to log into my main account. But in 319, I've been enjoying playing the game. Like, my play sessions have been more enjoyable than any time in my entire career playing the game. So I want to be very clear that I am happy about some things. It's not all doom and gloom. But for me, it's definitely, that's the point where the turn has to start happening. And if the turn doesn't happen, and it's just the whole, like, then the idiotic statements you feel that are idiotic start to actually sound right, about, like, that you've seen in our YouTube comments, or Chris Roberts is just perpetually keeping development going forever to continue getting a paycheck or whatever, like all these crazy things that you might be hearing, which all of a sudden don't sound so crazy anymore, right? Because if at some point, if they could keep going, like, why not, right? Guys feeding this whole family. Go for it, Chris.
I agree with you that, like, the gameplay is better than it's ever been when it works. And I think we've acknowledged multiple times this year that's why people are so much more frustrated, because you can finally start to feel it coming together. And it feels like there's that last thread of a rope holding you back from actually getting that full enjoyment. AstroPub,
4.0 is the foundation. The game, we want to play with the furniture, right?
Yeah.
How about you guys? 4.0, where are you putting it? Does it hold a grasp over you sticking with the game? Is it something that you're going to look at and kind of judge going forward, covering the game afterwards? What's your view? AstroPub?
For me, 4.0 is not the final, but like the beginning of the final version of Star Citizen. Because as everyone else has already said, there's really no more excuses once you reach server meshing. Because as much as, everyone's like, oh, well, it'll be the dynamic server meshing. As far as I understand, and I am a smooth-brained teacher who teaches history, not a coder, so I do not know if this is true or not. But logically, in my brain, this makes sense, which is that that once CIG has reached the point where we can see different servers, there's really no mechanical difference for gameplay between static server meshing and dynamic server meshing. All that dynamic is spinning up and pulling down servers. But if they have the ability to set us like the interior of a ship as a server, they could do that with like static meshing. There's nothing that says they couldn't do that if they didn't want to. The dynamic is more about expanding the scope of the game rather than letting the game function. And once that's out, that's a huge step towards the game that I think I would wanted to play. So it's hard to tell because I've said in the past where like if the game wasn't out by this point, I'd lose interest. And I didn't lose interest. I'm still interested in it. So I couldn't tell you if I would necessarily lose interest if 4.0 comes out and
That's a good point
everything.
too,
Well, it's still I just want to say it's still the most exciting science fiction show, MMORPG, kind of like big thing right now in our genre. Like there's nothing else really. So
there's things like that'll come close to it, but there's nothing that kind of does what the crazy thing that CIG is doing. And the thing that is encouraging is, despite the pillar problems, you have people like Elliot and people like DJ and people like Thorsten and I'm trying to think of
Thorsten's a legend, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And people like Yogi and so many people in the Star Citizen developer teams who come
Yogi's
in and are
been
basically
a saint for the last 24 hours. Oh my gosh.
who are passionate about the game that they're making and actually feel that, like, for at least it seems like, hey, Tomato's back, feel like they want to make a game. They want the game to be completed. And that for me makes me go, once this problem that is server meshing, not a solution, it's not the Messiah bullet that's going to save everything. It's a problem that they have to solve. Once that problem is solved in some way, shape, or form, we should be getting more of that content. And that's really what comes down to it for me, is more, when will we see the fruits of the labor that these development teams have been doing come to us? And that 4.0 to me is that block. It's the dam that's stopping up all of this other stuff coming out. That doesn't mean that dam's going to burst and suddenly all of this stuff is going to be done. It just means that this is the block that is preventing the game from advancing to the game that we want it to be.
Yep.
So for me, 4.0 is more of we're finally at the starting line. Everything else has been preparing for the race. This is the starting line. And from going forward is the problem.
They're going to do the thing. Guys, Star Citizen hasn't been in development until 3.0 started.
God.
Now they can say 4.0.
Well, like for instance, I don't think we'll ever see a 5.0. I don't think we'll see an alpha 5.0. I think 4.0 is the last step before they reach, and I'm going to say the word that's for verboten, and no one wants to say, but beta. Because beyond 4.0, the pillars that they want to put in 4.0, there really isn't anything left for like basic functionality except for gameplay. So
I ask everyone to go watch the 2018 keynote of CitizenCon again.
Oh God. Yeah.
I've shared that so many times. Yeah.
Yep. That is their intention, is the moment we're meshing, they feel the game is released.
Yeah.
And they reiterated that same thing in 2019, and it hasn't changed.
That's the crazy part about that lawsuit thing is
it's released now.
It technically wouldn't be, based on what Chris said.
I agree with you, AstroPub, that it feels kind of like it's not the Jesus patch. You know, we always make jokes about that. There is no Jesus patch. It would be the God, I don't even know what the analogy would call for. The Mary and Joseph patch. I don't know. It would, like, this would be the patch that would be what allows them to start maybe fixing this stuff we have problems with.
John the Baptist patch. That's what I'll say.
See, I don't know the lore well enough, but yeah, it would be like, this would be the patch that we would watch them and see if they started making improvements after that. Kind of like with PES, like we're sort of seeing some of that stuff, like physicalized components and salvage and things that we knew would depend on that. I'm expecting to see that something develop in that next year after 4.0, much like we did with 3.0 too. Tree, what about you?
Before Tree goes on, I will say, I'm also having fun with the game right now. I enjoy it because they brought back smuggling, and that was the gameplay I was waiting for. So I'm a happy man right now. I'm enjoying the game. I just want to see more in depth, and so that's really what 4.0 means to me, is that to take this game and actually make it the game that they want to make. So.
Yeah.
Same thing. I am enjoying the game like right now. I'm a loot goblin, and I can loot goblin. But at the same time, that isn't the whole game. There's a lot of things that I want to play that are not in game yet or are not fleshed out yet. So I totally get that, because being a loot goblin is only going to hold me over for so long. But the PES was the major blocker for developing gameplay mechanics. But server meshing is the blocker for expanding the game universe and making it feel more real. Because without server meshing, we can't have more NPCs. We can't have better NPC behavior. We can't have more locations. Stanton is as full as it's going to get on a single server, and so we are blocked by that. But at the same time, and I know everybody in these little boxes up on the screen has said it more than once. Manage your expectations. Sorry if you can hear the kids screaming in the background. Manage your expectations, because
they just want 4.0.
4.0 and 4.0 and server meshing is, we're going to split a server in half essentially and add another one. So you're not going to see this monumental change in the game in 4.0. If you expect that, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And that's where my expectations are. Is I expect 4.0 and server meshing, version 1, to have about the same level of stability and performance that PES did with 3.18. Right. I'm much more interested in what does 4.1, the 3.19 of 4.0 look like, and 4.2, the first next branch after that initial branch, because I've already set my expectations for 4.0 and they're low, and it's like, sweet, I'll get to see Pyro if I can get into the game, and I'll get to see these outposts if I can get into the game. And I'm almost hoping I can go on active duty for 3 months and miss out on it, and let everybody who's on screen scream and rage at CIG so I can miss out on the pain, because it was, that was my experience. I didn't have to suffer through 3.18 and 3.19.0, and I finally got into 3.19.1 just a few weeks ago, and it has definitely colored my experience far different than what everybody else here has gotten to experience. But I also, after seeing that, I'm like, I am setting my expectations low for 4.0. My expectations for 4.1, 4.2 are higher. If they don't meet those expectations, that's where I'm going to be like, are we really going to be able to make this work? If they can't be showing progress towards dynamic server meshing in, if we're in that same information drought 6 months after 4.0, where, okay, what's the progress onto that next step that they talked about? And there's nothing, I'm going to be very concerned, and I might, add salty Tree0311 into my name, just to set expectations appropriately. And I think that people should do that if that's what happens. I hope that people will do that if that's what happens.
I was really hoping you'd go a little bit further. I've got a call to prayer in the background. All right, next question real quick then. Do you guys think that 4.0 at this point has been...
It's that patch. John the Baptist or that guy.
Has it been overhyped? You guys feel like it's been too long and it's been able to build too much now that there will be nothing, well, not nothing, but disappointment, but will it end up being more disappointing to people because of that hype?
I can jump on that real quick. It's very simple. In my opinion, No, I don't think it's going to be overhyped. I do think that there are going to be people who expect more than they actually will get, because I think some people will expect that it will solve all the problems, because there's some people who don't set healthy expectations with CIG and do not have a healthy relationship with this game. But at the same time, I think a lot of people also who have been around with 3.18 will have set proper expectations now that 3.18 is out. Now that they see that, oh, it's going to be bad, then people will go, okay, I'll set it. But it's still not going to stop people from being frustrated and not being able to log in or losing tons of their progress, and that stuff's going to happen. And I think you'll still see people frustrated because people are people, and people are going to be upset about those things. So,
well,
yeah, I don't think it's overhyped. I think it's just hyped enough.
There's so many things they've introduced, like between, like I said last year, the UGFs, master modes, new outposts, Pyro itself, these missions, AI activities and behaviors. Like, you could just go down this list, engineering, like the stuff that Morphologis was listing earlier. There's so many things that they've introduced that at this point, it almost points towards them being part of 4.0, right? Because I know some of them will be after 4.0, but you expect 4.0 to be a place where they're going to try and build in a lot of features. And I don't know. I guess I just get worried that there's so much stuff going to go into this patch. How will it end up being received? What if none of that stuff does end up going into the patch? What if it's a pretty simple patch with just Pyro and a couple supporting features, and the rest is coming after that?
I think it comes down to the expectations they set leading up to it. Hey guys, we only want to focus on these things because we don't want to deal with a 3.18 as much of a problem there. This is a server meshing test. We have a lot of things planned for the next few patches. Here are some of them, and enjoy 4.0. Help us test it out. This is set the expectations right. These are this is a really important thing. Here's why. And then there you go. Right? Like, you can have a .1 come with something in there, maybe a little bit more exciting or whatever. Right? I think it would be very, very not smart of them to have 4.0 also come with additional gameplay or big, major changes. Like, I don't know what they would be, because I don't know how many 3.20s we have before we get to 4.0.
Sure.
But so that's just how I look at it. I think it makes a lot of sense to I don't know, be
cautious,
really
about
smart,
it.
Be cautious, and be cautious with us.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to be one of the more positive ones here, but I actually think that expectations for 4.0 being a big patch are not unreasonable, and I actually think that 4.0 holds a really special place for CIG and Chris Roberts in terms of progress towards the game, because 3.0 was a big step forward. It was a step from having no planets to having planets, and that was like, more, realizing it was more than that. It was like 64-bit precision, which enabled that technology and all the different things you can do on planets and stuff. So I think for them, 4.0 it should be a big step forward. And looking at all the effort they put into stuff like Rune Station, knowing that they've got a lot of gameplay in mind for it, I think that it is not an unrealistic expectation to look at 4.0 as a really big, rich content patch that I think that they might want to use to get a lot of positive attention back towards Star Citizen. So, I don't think it's overhyped. I'm not sure what people's expectations are beyond like a whole new star system and server meshing, but I think that that's a huge step forward for the game personally, because we're going from one star system and uncertainty towards the mechanics that will enable 100 star systems in the future to a working proof of concept that this is how you travel, this is how it can work, and here's a whole nother star system, in addition to the one we've been on for 10 years. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question? Because this is something that I've thought is kind of odd. Sorry, that wasn't it. What do you guys think about? I feel like they're treating Pyro kind of like they're treating Squadron 42, in that we've gotten very little update on what is actually in Pyro and how much is actually in Pyro. It almost feels like they're doing the whole, we don't want to spoil it for you guys thing. We want you to experience it for yourselves. Because like they've talked about work on well, they've talked about work on space stations and outposts. They've shown us, planetary pyro, but it's all been like a very 30K foot view. And they really haven't updated us on the lore. They haven't updated the star map. We don't know how many stations there are or where they're located, how many outposts there are, where they're located. And it just seems like, while they've done a good job of saying that they want to include lots of gameplay and things like your pathfinding through the outposts or the station that you talked about, Morphologis, it feels like they've also left the things very wide open as to how much is in Pyro, how much we will get to experience that's new and different. And I feel like it's kind of Squadron 42 again in that regard. I don't know.
I think
if you
it
guys
comes
think
down
the same
to
thing.
AI. What really differentiates the two systems, and that's why we don't get a great idea of it, because the way that AI reacts to you, the way that space stations react to you, how do you end up, you run missions, are there security there? No. Okay, there's different gangs. How do those gangs react to you? All that kind of stuff I feel like is what really makes Pyro different. And we get some of that in the monthly reports, but it's hard to put it all together to get a good idea of how it's going to turn out.
They also can't communicate what you'll get with 4.0 because they don't. We get 4.0 when server meshing is done. We don't get 4.0 when Pyro is done.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going to be in there. So that's why they're not communicating any of those things, because they can't. And that's like the biggest problem with them is we're like, tell us things. And for me, I think the only things that they should be telling us are what the general game design is, right? Like I follow other games that are in development, and they go through and they tell you exactly how their death systems will work, exactly how their housing system will work. And then you watch the game develop towards that. In Star Citizen, they go, this is what it might look like. And then you're the one who has to fill in all the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very smart thing for them to do, not maybe on purpose, not on purpose. And then we're all sitting here buying into all these grand ideas that they didn't actually say, and we just created in our heads. Right. And that's sort of the problem here is, what is 4.0? No, who knows, dude?
It's just a road, dude. That's it.
I mean, and that's what the road looks like. So who knows?
It's not about the destination. It's about the road you've been on all along.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that about wraps up our discussion here about 4.0, about this sort of, I think, turning point that we find Star Citizen in. For everybody who was here live with us, thank you so much for being here. We're going to actually do a little Q&A session here to finish up 15, 20 minutes maybe. I'm going to run these guys through the ringer. We'll answer some of your questions. For everybody else, though, who has listened or been here live or is watching on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. This is my monthly podcast. I host it on all audio platforms. If you listen to audio podcasts, or if you want to do this on YouTube, second channel is where it's at. Folks, though, before we head off for the Q&A, can you let everybody know one more time where they can find your content, starting with you, Salty?
SaltEMike everywhere that
Whoops.
I'm on. I have it everywhere, but I don't post everywhere. So pretty much Twitch and YouTube for me. And that's it. Yeah, so nothing crazy coming up. I've been doing a lot of org stuff, which has been fun for me. And it's keeping things fresh, and it's really the only thing I've been enjoying. It's been super cool. Other orgs contacting my org to sell us their pirated ships, and then we move all the cargo. It's been a cool thing.
More?
I don't know who's next. There you go.
Yeah. Well, Morphologis. You can find me again on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Yeah. If I have the same name for all of those platforms.
Mr. AstroPub.
You can find me TheAstroPub, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPub live for my gaming content and content like podcasts and news updates. And I've been doing some more lore expeditions, which is my own org where we go around and pilfer. Rescue relics from outposts. Tree's part of it, so he does his own sessions as well, going around that. And if you like lore, check out the youtube.com/theastrohistorian, where I cover Star Citizen, and I'll be covering a little bit of Starfield when it comes out as well, in terms of the lore and rich backstory behind those. So
Cool. And Tree, how about yourself?
Tree0311 on --SC on Twitter, and I just dropped the link to my YouTube, just youtube.com/@Tree0311. Same thing on Twitch, twitch.tv/Tree0311. And I do, Nazareth and I do the Pathfinders podcast, where we do in-depth reviews of the monthly reports, the progress tracker and roadmap updates, using shinytracker.app. If you haven't used shinytracker.app, I highly encourage you check it out. It's a great resource. And then we also do deep dives into the development. So if you like, especially what Space Window has been doing, and I think it's been really awesome, the information you've been sharing is, we'll go back and look at the full length of development of a feature from where it is, where it started to where it's been going, including a lot of the written stuff. So put things into context and help with expectation management. And then I do Armchair Admirals and Generals, where I get together with military members and veterans. We talk about Star Citizen and aspects of it from our various military perspectives. People like Night Cobb, Atirakel, you've seen him on AstroPub, had Sergeant Tickles on recently. Fun conversations. So please come join us. We do it live and everything. We do it live on Twitch, and then everything gets uploaded to YouTube.
There really is so much stuff to cover if you go about it historically.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot.
That's why those streams have been a couple hours long.
Yeah. All right. Well, once again, thank you guys all for joining me. Folks, for listening in, thank you as well. I'll see you all next month. And we are going to we're going to go ahead and jump right into this Q&A, because ain't no time for breaks. Unless any of you guys need to go, feel free to hop off, go to the bathroom, take a quick tenor. But I don't want to keep you guys too long, so I wanted to jump straight into this Q&A, get some questions to you, and then let you be on your way with your busy days. So welcome, everybody. If you weren't at the podcast, make sure to check that out, post it as well. But this is our little Q&A. I'm going to ask these guys all the hardest questions, and hopefully they'll get back to me with some decent answers. I hate their answers most of the time. They're very dumb people. Can't trust them at all. Horrible. All right.
You can never trust us. No, we are horrible.
Just Star Citizen
horrible
content creators. How could I trust you? Jeez.
We're all shills. I mean, that's the rule, right? We've all been paid by CIG.
Yes.
Yeah, Mike is paid opposition, so he's paid to say bad things.
I feel like Jared's trying to get me beat up at CitizenCon or something.
A bunch of people with staff t-shirts are going to surround you and just start kicking.
Listen,
Yeah.
I have said so many terrible things about Elliot that I'm like, I'm going to see Elliot at CitizenCon. He's just going to stab me. He's just going to stab me and let me bleed out. So I get it.
You guys got your annual bonus yet? I haven't gotten mine. Is it supposed to be a check in the mail or a direct deposit or?
Oh, Tree.
I think it's after the chip sale.
Yeah,
I'm new to the performance bonus, so I this is hopefully my first year getting it.
They just keep sending me pieces of armor and telling me to keep them safe and not lose them, since I can't get them back. That's my payment. All right, let's start with some questions.
Bonus, a career pack.
Oh boy. Let's start with questions, shall we? The first one we've got up is Stanko from our Discord server. Said, will CIG have to rethink their monetization strategy? Will the ship sales be enough to continue to finance the project, or they may have to find new source of income, such as releasing Squadron 42, yes, and use the sales to finance Star Citizen? So basically, like, do you think they'll be able to keep up financing the project?
I mean, it doesn't look good this year so far. So I mean, it obviously looks good, but and now they're already trying to make money elsewhere, and it's not a good look. I mean, do you see this post this week, guys? What the fuck?
What post?
Oh my god! Do you guys know about the Arlington Gang mission?
I've heard
See that one?
whispers. Yeah, I've heard.
Well, go scroll down to the bottom of the post. The post was only there and it says like, destroy everything with these ships or something. Like they can't even do a post to like communicate to the community without selling something. So it's just it's another just like bad look of where
everything's a sale.
Everything's a sale, yeah, and I'm so conflicted. I want them to find other means of making money, but it's always the way they go about it that's been like kind of just broken and dumb. I think, it was definitely one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, the sale for the career kits, right? That was just like a super bad look. And I know Morph made a really good video on that, and yeah. So it's just like you want them to go in these directions out away from ships, because my feelings are the ship sales have absolutely ruined an integral part of progression in an MMO. But we're way past that at this point. There's no solving that problem. So we got to figure out other solutions to progression and stuff. It is what it is. I'm still here. But I don't like what I've seen so far of the choices that they've made.
I agree with you, Mike, but I don't think they're ever going to have a problem with making money if they keep doing ships. I think they've been phenomenally successful with it, actually, especially considering that 85% of their developers' efforts and productivity are going towards a game we don't even have and is not paying for itself.
Sure.
So like everything that they're doing, that they've done for the past however many years, 3, 4, 5 years, working on Squadron 42 mostly, has been on the back of Star Citizen. I mean, if that starts paying for itself after they sell it, I think the ship sales will more than pay for the development of the game, or at least it feels that way. And then they've got, episode 2, which I whatever. But I think it's just going to keep going this way. They're going to keep selling ships. They're never going to stop. The damage is already done, like Mike said. It's not going to be progression. Ships are counterfeit now. They have to find some other way to make progression in the game. Hopefully it's a reputation system.
So
but that's another topic.
You think like they will just continue to keep doing ship sales like they're doing now after that
absolutely
launch?
Always. The only thing I hope they change.
Too good.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an easy thing to sell a player coming into the game. The only thing I hope they change is that they make, say, like an exclusive alternate version of a ship in the game, or like an exclusive skin, something to give people some sense of ownership and earning something in game with the ships, as opposed to just buying everything on the website. I fear that will become like everything is purchasable on the website. I hope to God that that's not the case.
I would accept that if they said maybe we will limit sales to ships only under $100, and if you're able to buy a ship, then you get it. I don't think I'd be okay with them selling ships that aren't in the game. Like if they're gonna go and release a ship for sale, make sure it's gonna be in the game by the time the sales page is up.
I initially shrugged when you said that about the under 100, because like why bother when they could sell $800 ships that have no gameplay with them and people eat them up? But I guess we're talking about more long term, and when those ships are actually in the game and functional, and
this would be like
you don't have this imaginary thing in your head of, oh, I'm going to do this with my Pioneer, when you actually know what you're going to do with your Pioneer, and you actually know how good it is or how not good it is or whatever. It'll be a much different story. So yeah, like actually selling game packages, which are maybe like mini booster packs, hey, start here instead of here.
Yeah.
But you also have to achieve here is probably a good idea.
How about
I don't see them. Go ahead, Tree.
So this is something that I've found very interesting, and I did a big podcast segment on it, because you have to take into account how much they make on predominantly selling ships and how big they want the company to be. With the Turbulent acquisition, they're right at around 1,100 people. And based off of their goals for growing Manchester, as well as they're planning on growing the other studios as well, just not as much. By the end of 2026, they're not going to reach this goal. I don't think it's a pipe dream to think that they're going to reach that goal by that time. But their goal is to have a development studio of nearly 2,000 people. We're talking 1,800 to 2,000 people in total across all the studios. At where we are right now, just prior to the acquisition, and we can sort of chart that out from the previous annual reports. We know how much the annual operating costs for CIG are. And I don't think that they can make as much as they need to continue to operate a company that's twice as large off of just ship sales, because that's a diminishing market in terms of the amount of gamers who will be willing to pay hundreds of dollars for spaceships. It's kind of like when things used to be luxury items, when big flat screen TVs used to be only for the rich, and now everybody has one, even if you're on food stamps. You make more money by selling more things that are more affordable. And that is what we have with like every big game right now is microtransactions. And a lot of people are very critical of them, but PES is built for microtransactions, for customization and cosmetics. That whole system is built so that way, A, you can have lots of progression and persistence, but B, they have advertised that you will have the ability to cosmetically and customize your ship, your persistent hangar, your hab apartment, your outpost that you build. No other game has had planned. It's all most of it's planned, obviously, but no other game has planned to have as much options for cosmetic and otherwise customization as Star Citizen is planning. And that makes for good gameplay. It also makes for the potential to make a ungodly amount of money. Now, will Star Citizen ever have 100 million people playing it or whatever it is for like they have for Fortnite? No, absolutely not. You're never going to have that kind of concurrency. But if you have an appreciable percentage of that with far more options for cosmetics and customization that game has, because you have a system like PES and you have ownership as a player of all these things, that's where your moneymaker is. And I hate the idea of like loot packs or whatever. But I don't mind the idea of people being able to purchase the armor that makes their character look the way they want, or the skin for their ship, or the furniture for their hab. And yeah, those things should obviously be in game and you can earn them. But if you just want to look that way and pay $5, you pay $5. And that to me is because I do not like the elitism of expensive ship sales. I don't agree with that as a long-term funding model. I think it's an okay funding model. I think it's going to continue, but I don't think it's going to be the lion's share of funding. And I think it's, I hate to say it, but I think it's smart on CAG's part by going for a funding model that is, hey, you can buy the game package. You can also buy cosmetic upgrades and customizations. You can also buy the single-player campaign, and you can buy expensive ships. And that way you're not tied to one single thing like they are right now. And I think being tied to that right now is to their detriment. And marketing is doing what marketing does, but it makes them look bad by having to constantly market expensive ships. Yep. And we've also seen year after year, the speed at which your Kraken sale, your Idris sale, the speed with which they run out, it has gone up every year. And so you have a larger gamer population playing SC, but fewer and fewer of those people are willing to pay large amounts of money for the game or parts of the game. But they will, consumer psychology, pay for things that are $1, 50 cents, $5. And that's how you make your money in this day and age. And it's simple consumer psychology, and every company knows that. And making ships, that's a lot of dev effort to make a very expensive asset where you're limited to the only amount of people that'll buy it. Whereas you can hire gobs of, cheaply paid developers to make interactables for your hab, your ship, your outpost.
Yeah.
Super cheap, super fast.
The cosmetics and props are going to be a big one, I think, going forward. AstroPub, how about you?
I don't see CIG stopping what they're currently doing, but I do see them diversifying. One of the things that CIG has claimed in the past, and again, this is a dangerous thing to always take CIG at their word, but CIG has said in the past that their goal was, here's a common thing I've heard, for instance, which is everyone's going to be working on Squadron 42 Part 2 rather than Star Citizen, because that's where they want to do. So there's going to be no one moving over from Squadron 42 to Star Citizen. But the thing that they've said in the past was that they wanted to. They're putting a lot of effort up front right now to build the foundation for Squadron 42, so that when they do the next part, they don't have to kind of rebuild the game from scratch. They're going to use the same engine and then just kind of move forward, because they wanted to use a similar concept to what Aaron did with the Lego games, which is you take the same foundation, you build a little bit on it, and you release the next one, and you do it on a timetable of 2 to 3 years. So that way you're dropping out a new one every few years with minimal updates to technology, because you don't really need to do so. And they've talked about doing side independents, like single player games, maybe small little iterations. So I think microtransactions, cosmetics, those sorts of bonuses to help you kind of get more personality, because this is an MMO, and those are things that are very important in an MMO is personality and flair, will all be added, will be expanded upon. Those packs are god awful, but the reason why those packs are god awful right now has more to do with the fact that you can't retrieve any of them, and they're not really good value than the fact that they exist. If you could get those back after like a 24-hour cooldown period, I wouldn't have nearly as much problems, because we've had those issues in the past.
Yeah,
but like CIG is just going to try to find more ways of making money, but I don't think ship sales are ever going away. I don't think concept ships will ever go away. I think this is just that's what it is. So
my biggest problem with this is sort of touches on what you're touching on there, Paul, is that we can't get them back quickly, but it's also the idea that CIG is always putting the cart in front of the horse. For example, we watched an entire video on ISC this week about how, well, look at all these problems we have with these ships that we've already created, and now we have to figure out how we're going to make vehicle munching with these ships, when they should have figured out how they're going to make vehicle munching and then make the ships work with the vehicle munching. Right. So this is the same thing with the cosmetics. We have to figure out how we're going to do our cosmetic system before we sell the cosmetics, and it's like that's the problem here, is that they still haven't decided, are we getting first off, the current system is the worst possible situation of selling the item and not the cosmetic aspect. So now you've taken away the gameplay of finding the sniper rifle, which is added into the game. And I think one of the best aspects of the game is having your players actually play it. Imagine that. And then if you want to apply that very cool cosmetic, you can, right? Like, that's how I would have liked to see it. That's, again, my personal preference. I don't know if that's how it's going to be. I don't know what's planned there. They actually have not. They've told us that they want to have discussions, is that. And yeah, it's just not great. So it's always putting this cart in front of the horse situation that really sucks. They could have easily sold me on the gameplay and then made that. And that's what I loved about this ISC, was they prototyped it in front of me. I have an idea of what they want to do, and then I could decide if I want to buy the spaceship out. It would have been so good if they did that. The order of operations still would have led us to $600 million, I think, if they were happy with showing certain things ahead of it. But yeah, that's my big thing with cosmetics is this is not, you are buying not even the tier 0 cosmetics. We don't know what the hell is going on. And it's just the same thing with this. It's to what we were kind of complaining about earlier. It's making the same mistakes over and over again and never really doing anything to resolve them.
Yeah. All right. Next question. And I'm going to emphasize that we will probably need to answer questions fast from here on. Mike, I think we're going to lose you pretty soon, right?
I'll check. I'll see. Double check where we're at. I got no problem when I said 30, 40 minutes, probably like 10 minutes ago. So I think we're okay.
I don't want to run anybody over time. We've been at this for a little while. So whenever anybody does need to step away, let me know. The next question is, what are the biggest lessons CIG has learned and the biggest lessons they have failed at when it comes to communication with the backers?
You wanted a short one.
I can do this.
We hit so much on it already, though.
Yeah. You could summarize what we've said.
I'll do this very quickly. The biggest things they're still struggling with is how to communicate in a timely manner. The thing that they have learned, which I think is good, is to when to communicate, how much to communicate when. So like the roadmap is a great idea. When Jake came in and helped make that change to where we only see one patch ahead, it sucked ass. But now we don't get the complaints about this thing was on the roadmap and it got removed because they couldn't keep it. So like that was a fantastic addition because it helped keep expectations to what just the next patch. And we've hardly seen anything, especially anything that matters, slipped from that. But they still have a problem where they say something and then they just don't talk about it. So like they're better at communicating expectations, worse at communicating what's going on.
Yeah. Sorry, well, I have to. Hey, Tree, could you turn on push to talk by any chance? We're getting a lot of feedback in the background. All right. Anybody else wanted to answer that one?
I mean, I guess around communication, I think I'm with Paul 100%. They have to do more stuff like what they did with the roadmap and accept the consequences of the backlash that they got by doing it, but now look at things, right? And I mean, I called it right away that I thought it was a great idea. Everybody thought I was an idiot, and I think it's been pretty good so far. I think they should just kill the progress tracker. I mean, that's where I'm at next with a lot of things on how they're communicating, just because it creates expectations for everybody. I love what Shiny's done with his website or whatever. It's all fantastic, but I don't think that's generally a good thing for Star Citizen, the entire community, and that we should have to go to a place like that to understand what CIG is doing with their game. I think they should be much more clear with it, right? And yeah, so as far as communication goes, it's a lot of just pay attention and understand your player base, and I don't think they do, or care to in a lot of cases. Recently, price changes on ships, lots of stupid shit over the last year, stuff like that have been consistently happening over the years. As far as around the game, I don't know. My feelings about ISC is less about game development and more about Star Citizen development. I'd like to hear, because I'm sorry, Star Citizen is not game development. It's this weird amalgamation of a crowdfunded game, and they're not doing what other traditional studios do. They're not teaching anybody game development in a lot of ways, is how I feel. So I definitely have my gripes about Jared's direction on things. So I don't know if that's part of this question or not, but yeah.
Okay. More for Tree. You guys have anything to say on that?
No, I think we talked about it already, and they said, I think, pretty much what I'm thinking as well.
Cool.
I think the only thing I would add is I think the community team needs reinforcements so the community team can do more sanity checks on things that other teams do or say, because I think that would really help soften or prevent a lot of things that Salty talked about, that AstroPub talked about, that everybody has gripes about, is if X team or X person ran something by Jake, hey, you're okay, sorry, beforehand, I think that would probably help.
They're just excited to get a word in.
Yeah. to add to Tree real quickly about that whole thing, it's Jake has constantly said he wants to add more to the progress tracker and the roadmap. They just don't have enough people to help him. He just doesn't have the
just like with everything else, it isn't finished.
Yeah,
it's
the version 1.
And those are sorts of things. Like if CIG had the manpower that they wanted to have, it probably would be better communication as well as the other things. So yeah.
All right, next question. With the current prolonged slowdown in ship production, they say 50% slowdown. I don't know where that comes from. Should CIG at least release more ship variants on a quarterly basis?
No.
No.
No. They keep adding to the list of things that they have to then develop the game for, where again, they need to develop the game and develop the ships to. I think the Centurion was like literally the best example of anything I've ever seen. Jumptown comes, they find this missing gap of gameplay that needed to be there, and they built it and then sold it to you. And you didn't hear me yelling about any of that. That was the steps that I wish we could see more of.
Only wish the Centurion actually worked, but
yes,
it was a good idea.
Yeah. I wish it was more effective, but it was a good process.
Yeah, it's better to find the gaps. It's better to find the gaps in the gameplay and then fill those games with ships.
I think that,
and got to work on the gameplay.
Yeah, I'm not concerned with additional variants unless it's exactly that. It's a variant that adds something to the gameplay. I'm more concerned with like, not if they're releasing ships, but if they're dealing with that incredible backlog that they have. So,
okay,
those sell too. When a new ship comes out that previously was, people buy them still, right?
Yeah,
the whole sea is gonna blow up the freaking money tracker because people like the whole sea, and people.
I mean, how much is it going to cost too? That price is going to go up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Next question. How do you think the conversation at CIG to push the career kits went? What was their totally not just grabbing money justification for themselves?
They was grabbing
Didn't
money.
say anything.
Yeah, I think it was somebody on the marketing team who has no idea what's going on made the decision without asking anybody if it was a good idea.
Yeah,
And
I think
just posted it.
I think it was a couple of ideas to say, hey, let's sell gear. And I would also argue that there was probably they're taking some feedback, because I can't tell you how many people have said, I want a starter pack that just has gear and no ship. And what somebody heard at CIG was sell gear. So, yeah.
All right. Let's see, another question here. Has CIG actually discussed what technical walls they've been running into trying to get server meshing working?
Not recently.
Nope. Last thing we heard
6 months.
was decoupling the replication layer. It's the last thing we heard.
Big
Yep.
problem.
The server meshing black hole is the first black hole that's actually in game.
They did it. They figured it out.
Yep, I did it.
All right. Do you think we are going to see landing zone gameplay, i.e. at Loreville, we can land somewhere in the city and deal with some Ninetales, or even something like doing a drug deal? So like missions in cities.
Yes, absolutely.
Eventually. They
When?
talked about it.
Yeah. When
No
the
clue.
interior when the interior procedural tool is done, which
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Not
it's
even
mostly
Montreal, so-
paper
I
concept
mean, we
right now.
we already kind of see it with the Orison missions. That's technically a city mission. It's a little weird because it's Orison, but like they do that in Loreville or ArcCorp.
That was
same way.
that was their first attempt at it, and it was a really good approach. I like the idea of it, but the only other things they've done are paper concepting that we saw in a video like half a year or more.
Yeah.
ago.
I would argue we have a lot of law system updates that are required before that happens as well, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Which we've all seen
the law
have
system.
their edge cases. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, camping
All right.
the opening from the
Next
safe
up.
zone with a grenade launcher.
Don't
Yep.
get me started on any of the law system. You know my big rant about how I hate the system entirely. But
That's a rough one. I think. As someone who has not played SC in at least 9 months because the experience was hot garbage, why should I come back?
it's not
You
hot
should've.
garbage anymore.
Wow,
It's cooled
that's a
down.
completely
It's no
different
longer
answer.
hot.
It's
Yeah.
still a really warm compost pile. So
Yeah, it's really rough still for me at least.
My
Warm
assumption
garbage.
is 9 months ago was what? November? Right?
Yeah.
Last year. So like we've gotten from like 318's garbage, and now it's actually there's a lot of performance increases. There's a lot of improvements that has happened since then. But
it depends on what he's into, because
Yeah.
like dude, if you like salvaging and mining and things like that, I'm sorry, that is some of the best things I've seen them do ever. And yes, there are lots of issues and sprinklings of hot garbage with all of that as well.
but it's fun.
But it's pretty fun. And the thing for mining with me is it's future focused.
Yeah.
Like mining actually hasn't changed as much as it's there, but it's that they developed something with like the future in mind. It just blew my mind. And now it's like, okay, well, when's the future? But still, it was something
Yeah, it's
that
been really
just,
fun to watch your org videos.
yeah, generally made me feel more positive about these things. Is like, okay, somebody there cares and they're allowing him to care. Holy
Mhm.
crap. It's been amazing.
It's been good to see that.
Praise be to Torsten.
Yeah, I would say like you can't ask somebody with no context why they should play Star Citizen, because there's a lot of different reasons to play it, and there are some pretty significant ones to stay away from it. So context is helpful.
Yeah, I would say if the issue is performance, there's been a huge amount of performance improvements since 9 months ago. The completion of what was it?
Gen 12?
Yeah, Gen 12, and then the starting on things like Vulkan. I'm getting better frames. I think everyone's getting better frames in general. Though I haven't really heard a lot of people complain about performance, because now it's almost directly tied to your gear rather than just being it's hot garbage 20 across the board.
Yeah.
But again, if you're like normal people and you want to play a video game, then Star Citizen's not quite there yet. So
Yeah.
No. I mean, I've had a lot of server performance issues of not being able to sell things after going out and mining or going out and
Yeah.
salvaging. I've had issues with like people not being visible, with stuff falling through the ground, just waiting minutes for things to load, inventory not working at all, my helmet disappearing. Like that's constantly happening to me still. So I don't know.
Anybody have the high B-win thing? I mean, that is the.
I had that with when they launched the last free fly. If that's the other thing, avoid free flies at all costs. Everybody should know that by now.
It's happening to me
But
now.
you know, other than
like,
oh man,
game
I haven't
breaking.
gotten it except for with the high concurrency from the last free fly. It just came out of nowhere, but then it settled down after like 10 minutes. It was it was weird.
All right. Next question. I looked ahead and I've got another question here that is too long for me to read out, so I sent it to you guys via text. You can read that and be ready to answer it after this one. But the current question is, what last second items do you feel could be added to Alpha 3.20?
I would love to hear them just say that there is something to trade from station to station with the Hull C. Done. It is the simplest thing. We currently, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I don't do much trading, but I'm 99% sure there is no L1 to L1 or whatever trades that exist on the market. All you have to do is a little something like that, and I'm probably sort of okay. I think you're muted.
You're muted, Paul.
Yeah, you're muted.
I thought my headphones died.
Waste and scrap. Waste and scrap.
Yeah, but you can't trade them to each other, right? You can buy them
Not
and then you
really.
have to sell them somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, you don't make them a lot of money or any money, but you can technically buy them and move them from one station to another and not make any money. But
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yay.
They probably need to. I mean, I hope they're doing something with the quantity timers for stuff for shipping, because I know people have to wait huge amounts of time for certain profitable items. So that'd be rough if you had to fill up a whole C and you had to wait like half a day to fill it or something ridiculous.
Oh boy, yeah.
I think we really need to wait until we see more from from the new cargo system, the new cargo loading system they've introduced for the Hull C. If it's
Seems
going
like-
to be just the Hull C or everything, or we need more details on it. And
Seems like it's just I'm assuming it's just the Hull C from how they stated it on the release view.
that's true.
Yep.
I wonder if it'd be the Hull A as well, though, because that ship also has issues with landing with cargo on it. That'd be interesting if they did that as well.
I think
Yeah, I
the
would
thing that
assume
I would
they
like
would.
to see surprise added, and this is probably not something that isn't on anyone's radar, and I'm surprised CIG hasn't done it already, is the two-handed tools. Why do we not have the two-handed salvage tool with the accompanying backpack? And I get that vehicle tractor beams are more complicated than handheld. Where is my two-handed tractor beam?
Because it's not in Squadron? Or maybe isn't used in Squadron, so they're not prioritizing it.
They were
I don't
telling
know.
us about, I mean, it's just another time when they were telling us about the salvage backpack and getting that ready, and that was all throughout last year, and then salvage came, and
I
now
feel like that's
no talk about
a
it.
fairly low-hanging fruit. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would love to have,
Yeah.
I love tractor
have the
beams in all
asset.
forms. Yeah, they
Right.
have
They
the
showed
asset,
Yeah.
Why do I not have it? If you're going to add more containers, because hopefully it's not just one SCU, 32 SCU, but they didn't clarify in the card, so I don't know where to set my expectations
No,
on that.
That's what it
Read
is.
the
But if
card. Read the card, or at least read the roadmap update. It said up to.
Yeah, up to
So
32.
it sounds like
I'm
it's
hoping.
going up, and they've
Mhm.
shown sneak peeks of all the other sizes. I think it's fair to assume we're going to have other sizes. I would say
I think
that.
it would go a long way to help manage people's expectations, especially after the tractor beam video, if they added that one in for for the larger containers in order to say, hey, this you're not going to be able to lift a 32 SCU with this two-handed, but you're at least say, okay, the one-handed only goes up to 4 or 8, and then after that you need your big one. So if you want to pirate your Hull C, you soft death a Hull C, you need to have those two-handed ones. But
you
I'd
can
also
only find them in game.
Sure, fine, great, do
Or
it.
only
I
find
just
them
want it.
in world. Yeah.
Do it.
I would
Yeah,
love that.
I want my big yellow tool on my backpack. But the other thing is, I think I know that we were supposed to get a two-handed cutter one. I know there's the salvage one, but I think that it would be really great is if they added more variety to, because they did the changes for the ground rocks, And I think it'd be cool is if they had a backpack that is tied to your two-handed ground mining tool in order to improve your, give you better, I don't know, performance or mining rate, being able to carry more if you're going to do ground minables. And that same sort of thing. Just, it feels like low-hanging fruit to me from actor feature or weapon feature or both.
Oh, well, since we're taking a trip to Imagine Land for things that probably will never happen in 320, I would love to see reputation.
Hop on my magic carpet.
Yeah, I would love to see that. You can't get those unless you build your reputation with salvaging or mining from some organization in the game, and then you can get that stuff. But no, I'm not convinced anything surprisingly big will be in 320. Any of the 16 items on that list would be amazing, but I have very low expectations for 320.
This is a dangerous industrial tool, and we don't trust you with it until you've done baby's first tractor beam.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's progression. That'd be so cool. I would actually want to work towards it then.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
I will.
Sorry.
I'll add one quick thing, which is more quantum missions, more stuff connected to the quantum. That would be the one thing I'd hope, because that's my deep in the back of my brain. Hopium is that quantum is starting to become more than just a one thing that was done 2 years ago and it hasn't been updated since.
Oh, dude, I can't wait for the PowerPoint at CitizenCon from Tony Z. It's going to be so sick, dude. PowerPoint, nothing to do with the game at all, is going to be amazing. I can't wait.
Here's this amazing simulation that we've not hooked up to the PU yet.
Which could be its own cool game, to be honest.
That we have, but we haven't utilized all the positive things that we could do with it being hooked up to the game. Because fuel is there, repairs there, and they've done very little with it. Yeah, which is one of my biggest disappointments over the last few years.
Huge disappointment. The quantum simulation overall has just been flat balloon, or whatever you call it. I don't know what the saying is. All right, next question. I kind of summarized it down, I think, to why are you guys focused on the game, on Star Citizen?
I have to say that question is I'm not reading that. I'm happy for you. I'm sorry that happened. It's 2 paragraphs.
Sir, this is the Whammers.
It is a long question. It basically just describes Star Citizen as a standout game. Yeah, and asks why do you
follow
guys
the project still?
Yeah,
I get it all the time. Why do you follow it if you hate it? I don't.
I just hate it.
I want to love it. That's why
that's just his face.
You shouldn't be here unless you love the game. Don't say anything bad about it. If you want to, just leave.
Yeah, I want to love it. That's why. I think the entire panel and most of the people in chat would probably agree that there's not many games that have the potential to be as cool as this, and that's, I think, why we're all still covering it. And you have a very, very interesting group of people here that cover it in all different ways and different aspects. Hey, Moon, put it down. But that's why I still cover it. It's super fun to still have these. We're all here. Are you guys having fun? I'm having fun having these conversations, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we're all.
I look
still
forward
here.
to this all week. When I learned that Tomato was going to host this, I was like, man, I cannot wait until Saturday.
Right?
It's a good talk.
I think that's why we're here. Game's cool, has a lot of potential, and it's really fun to still talk about. I think, and I've been saying this for a long time, I think a lot of people that are here following the project right now will not be here when the game is released, because they will find out that it's not the game that they wanted, and that's okay. There'll be a lot of people that found out that it is, and I might be one of those people that are still here. I might be one of those people that are not. When I find out what the game actually will be and how it will play, I'll make my decision then. But for now, it's a lot of fun to still talk about and enjoy those back and forths. As much hate as I get, there's as much good conversation as well. So it's been fun.
Well, I'm for one a paid shill, so I'm paid to be here, and that's why I'm still covering it.
Wait, you got paid to be here on the podcast?
You guys are being paid?
Wait, why'd you tell them that?
Contractually,
I'm sorry, guys. It came from CIG. They told me to just pass it on to Morph.
Oh man, like everything you said, Mike, 100%. But I also think looking at other games, like there's a couple of reasons. Like there isn't a game out there for me that really checks all the boxes that Star Citizen does. Everybody's just kind of taking certain facets of what I hope out of a space game and doing that really well. And honestly, you can't expect much more than that because the budget for this type of game, it's inescapably huge. Everyone thinks that this or that's going to be the next Star Citizen, but me having followed development for so long now, I've realized that there's not going to be a next Star Citizen because no one's crazy enough to try to pay for it. It's the budget is just so, like, you need so much money to develop an everything space game. It's just not tenable for any kind of 2-year release cycle.
It may not be for this. We don't even know, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it might not even be for this. We're 10 years in, and we've definitely got 10 years more. I mean, if you guys think that we're going to be in a release, any kind of release in 10 years, I think you're going to be disappointed. But yeah, no, like, I really, I'm still here because I love Star Citizen, and as much as I am frustrated with the current state of the game and its drought, I continually voice my opinion on it because I think if you love something and you want it to improve, you don't just constantly say it's great. You tell them the truth, and you hope that they can learn from that. I mean, that's assuming that I know what I'm talking about. Maybe I don't, but I try to be constructive with my criticism and stuff. So
yeah,
maybe I'm gonna be unhappy at times, but I still love the game.
Yep. All right. Next question then. Are we in a normal SC cycle? New patch change, hype waiting, people getting bored, CIG is bad at communication. Will it get better after Citizen Con? Is this a normal cycle?
No.
Yes and no.
Okay. Having, and I'm not trying to brag or anything here, but having the biggest viewer base, seeing my statistics drop off like a cliff this year, for interest in Star Citizen, then looking at the Google search term results for searches for Star Citizen. Interest in Star Citizen this year is at near an all-time low. I think that it's living off the existing backer money that people keep buying in sales, but it's not gaining a whole lot of interest outside of the existing community right now. And that's because of the current cycle being the way it is. It feels like a drought. Well, yes, technically there are features that are being put into the game that is technically progress, as I've been constantly trying to get across. It's that it's about the tangibles for people, the big things that people can read as actual progress towards the game. And unfortunately, for a lot of people who I know come back occasionally, for them, when they come back and visit Star Citizen, they look at it as not having enough progress from the last time they played it. And they might have played 2-3 years ago. They're still playing the same bunker missions. They're still killing the same NPCs in space, experiencing the same bugs. We're in the same star system. The thing they want to play still isn't in the game. So you can only go and do that for so long. And I think we're just right now here at this point where it feels, even though technically it's not like the pre 3.0 days where we had no updates for a year, it feels like that because this duration of very little content has stretched from the last CitizenCon in 2018 for this long. And it just feels just so difficult now. So I don't think it's a typical cycle. It's particularly down. I think CitizenCon could improve it potentially, but it really highly depends on what they talk about. If all they talk about is just the road to 4.0 again and Pyro, I think people are going to roll their eyes and get bored. But if they talk about a Squadron 42 release and like some things we didn't expect after 4.0, I think that might help a bit.
I will say that it is a normal cycle in the sense that July is terrible just for gaming in general, because July is bad. Like July, I think even when it comes to like monetization speaking, is like the lowest monetization after January. January is like goes off the cliff. And so as a result, there's a little bit of that there. And because CIG goes basically every year silent. But I think the difference as well is that you have Starfield, which a lot of people who really hype space games are looking towards Starfield, and they're looking towards that coming out. And there's probably more hype for Starfield in my experience this year than I've experienced with other similar space games in the past, because it is a Bethesda game. And so a lot of the people who would normally be excited about Star Citizen just aren't, because of it taken so long for them to get to 4.0. There's been 4 years looking at Pyro and still not out yet, and all sorts of things like that. So there's definitely other factors, but you also get hit into the fact that it's also a normal trench, and this trench has gotten deeper. So it's a little bit of yes and no.
it's insanely deep because I have around 4 years of data of constantly covering Star Citizen, and it's never been this bad. This is really bad.
I'm down to double digits in subscriber counts for my for one of my channels, and triple digits. It's low triple digits for the Astro Historian, and I was at 1,000 subscribers like a month.
It's definitely slowed down over the course of this year. Yeah.
So this last 2 months, it just went off a cliff.
I went from 3,500 a month down to like 300 a month. In the past 90 days. So
I think it's telling because Jared said straight up, we're covering this. They won't let me cover this because of CitizenCon. And hopefully, big caveat, big air quotes, hopefully that means that they're going to cover a lot of good things at CitizenCon that I would otherwise hope that they're covering. Because based off like the monthly reports, when they talk about how far along certain things are that we've been waiting to see and have shown to us, because I like reading the monthly reports, but at the same time, we have not seen anything. They've not shown us anything from the star map. They've shown us little tidbits here and there from like the new AR marker system. They've shown us a little bit here and there from MFDs and stuff, but there's a lot of big features that are huge quality of life things that will make a big difference to the game that are, we hopefully will get shown at CitizenCon that will drive a lot of hype, especially if those are things where they can say, hey, this has been in the dev branch for Squadron for months, and now they've tested it thoroughly and they're going to work on importing it. That's what I'm hopeful for. And I think that's why we're in this drought, because they are waiting to show those things.
The next...
I just want to say, if I hope to God that's not all, because I mean, I know we're really hyped for it. I'm really hyped to finally have a star map and stuff like that. But I think that the gaming community will laugh at that, because if all they're talking about is a star map, that's like a basic thing.
Oh, I'm just throwing it out as an example.
It's a big thing for us, but dude, it was on Starfield's demo. They never talked about the star map. They just showed it and it was like, oh, look, something basic that looks decent.
And how many Star Citizen content creators have done that exact same thing? And I'm like, for the love of God, just get it into the game already. Do the same thing with the like we've gotten a little tidbit with the new interaction system, and the way that things sort of pop up, but not a whole lot. There's so much that's behind that Squadron wall that they need to get into the PU in a timely manner, but they also need to show it, because there's a lot of things where they just haven't hardly shown that, but they've talked about it ad nauseum in the monthly reports, which
constantly trying to make surprises out of it.
I hope like you, Tree, though. I mean, like, I think I hope what you're saying is right, that they're waiting to show this at CitizenCon, but I think also that they need to say that, hey, this is going to be the next patch to actually get the hype of people wanting to come back. If they're just saying, we're going to do this someday, it'd be like, all right, yeah, we've heard that before.
Yeah, I might be the only one like talking about YouTube numbers, that the numbers are typically higher, but I think it's because a lot more people are resonating with opinions that I've had for the last 5-6 years, because of how bad things have been. So I think I'm a little bit of an anomaly in that case. So I've had the
King, man.
I've had the 4-digit subscriber numbers pretty consistently on both channels lately.
Nice.
And I think that's just because it's easy to feel the way that I normally feel, I think.
Shameless plug. I do it all for charity. So it doesn't,
there you go.
I feel bad for you guys, because this is a significant part of your income. And Salty, you, like, correct me if I'm wrong, you left your full-time job career to do this full-time, right? And so it's a big deal. And,
I left my career, but my career was a part-time job, so it wasn't that. I did make very good money. To make less money, I'm happier though.
Yeah, it's a swift kick to the not happy bits if this happens to you.
It's not fun being reliant on Star Citizen for your entire living.
It's also more of a engagement, because like up until this point, pretty much the train that is Star Citizen, he had no brakes. Like the community grew and grew and grew and grew, and even CIG was just like, we can't handle the sheer volume of people who are starting to log into the game for the last 3 years. If you looked at like the metrics for Star Citizen on YouTube, Reddit, Twitch, anywhere you look for social media, the mentions of Star Citizen, they had been growing or steady for years. I think this is the first month in a long time where that metric has gone down in a significant way. That's more than just like a little blip and then pushed back up. So I think that's
there's
the
lots
way
of
that you
reasons.
look at it.
I think
Yeah.
other games are looking more interesting, and there's a lot of other games that are just doing a decent amount of things well, and it just makes the allure of SC maybe not as exciting as it was before for the time being, because people know the state of the current game isn't the best, I guess.
All right, next question is actually about CitizenCon. If you guys are expecting anything big there, and even if there is, what's the likelihood we will have another year of drought?
Another year? Yeah, certainly likely. Why not? It's been every other year. I'm confused.
I mean, this
We'll
year
definitely
is a
have
drought next
droughts.
year.
Yeah, they just mean the continued of this one, I guess. Another year plus of content drought that we're currently going through.
It all depends on server meshing, right? Because of everything we talked about earlier. It feels like they won't start actually making the game until after. So if they're struggling this much with PES, which they said is a larger part at the time, we'll see. When they actually start doing more server meshing stuff, or they talk to us, we'll know a little bit more. But I think it's entirely likely that we have a whole nother year of this again. Why not?
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Go ahead, guys.
Tree.
I think it just depends on what content you're looking forward to.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of stuff that content-wise is, an expansion of the game-wise, server meshing is locked, like Salty said. But there's a lot of stuff that they can bring over in the meantime from Squadron. There's a lot of things that they are working on that were being blocked by PES that can come in that time frame. And so, that the things that I want more than anything are the quality of life updates from the flight model, from the first person AR markers, your scanning, the new scanning system, the MFDs, the star map. All of that stuff to me brings so much quality of life to the game that I won't even care about whether Pyro and server meshing are in yet. They can bring in, whether they can get bounty hunting done in a timely manner, I don't know. But I don't think that's blocked by server meshing. I think that is, just a thing that's in development, and it'll be done when it's done. But it's the big quality of life things that I think that we could get in between now and then that will probably really help the experience. And so nothing that I'm really waiting on is being held back by server meshing and 4.0 Pyro. It's the years
Everything
of frustration with how the quality of the game, the quality of the gameplay now. If the gameplay that we have now improves, yeah,
everything's held back by those things because they have to redevelop everything that they do to work within a PES environment. They have to do the same thing with server meshing. So even the things that you like now, they all have to get reworked to work in these environments. So I get what you're saying, but it's also not entirely the case, right?
I hope
certain things, but like AR map markers, radar, and star map, I don't think are being held back by server meshing at all. I think
your AR markers absolutely are. The PES, everything, because it's what's spawned in and what isn't. All those things when they come off the screen, like a lot of things, when your party markers go away, stuff like that. Those are AR markers, right? Same thing. Are we talking about? Mm-hmm. Those are all related to these problems too. So absolutely, like literally, it's everything, dude. It sucks, but that's what the problem is for me. Is everything is that's why they don't develop as much, or they do the bare minimum.
Yeah,
just to make it somewhat functional because they don't want to overdo it to have to redo it.
One would hope that CIG is developing the current stuff that they're doing with server meshing in mind, because obviously they're going to have to like pre-prepare with the right hooks and all the right things. And they've been doing server meshing preparations for years. They've talked about like mission teams, ship teams, everything that we've seen in the monthly reports. Like our team is now finally up to date with what server meshing is going to be. So we hope that all they have to do is finish server meshing and those things will work. But yeah,
Doubt. X for doubt for me on that.
I don't think we're going to reach and run into a drought, but I do think we'll still run into a drought in the sense that I think we're going to have more content come out after 4.0, but I don't think it's going to be as much as people hope or want.
No, of course not.
But I also know my experience with 3.0. When 3.0 came out, 3.0 was pretty bare bones. Like it was pretty much 2.6.3 with less missions and but stuff to go on planets. And I think we all remember Screenshot Citizen, I should say Sunset Citizen and Sunrise Citizen, where everyone.
I mean, just go to Reddit today. It's
Hurston really got us that.
Still the same thing, I thought.
But the point being, like people will find content. If you give them the sandbox and you give them some tools, they'll find ways of getting entertainment out of it. And I think that's the big thing.
Defining drought is the issue here, right? Because some people aren't having one.
Yeah. And if you release Pyro, people will like see that as a huge win and as a huge expansion to the game, and they'll see this is a new place to go. They'll see that as progress towards the actual final goal. And I think the mentality of drought will be different. I think some people who will say this will see a drought after a month be like, oh, well, I've done everything I want to do and I'm done. But I don't think the overall feeling will be as negative. Because right now, 4 years of talking about Pyro and still nowhere in sight, once Pyro is released, that negative connotation goes away, or at least simmers back to the background where people go like, Nix, what about Nix? What about the next systems?
I think you hope it goes away, but don't you think there's going to be, like, I wonder if, I feel like I'm going to end up being one of these people, though, is like we've talked about it for 4 years, but I guess my expectations are more quelled from that recent like Montreal SCL where they were like, we're not even working on it because what's the point, right? And so maybe it's not the whole thing is okay. You had X amount of years to do it, and then they deliver it, and it's just as bare bones as Stanton is, and you're like, well, what did this do, right? This didn't do anything. You just made more places to go and nothing to do at them. And that's my expectation for Pyro, by the way. Is
I don't know. Too.
Yeah,
but
I don't know why everybody wants it so bad. It's just more places to go with nothing to do. But okay, more screenshots to take. Somebody will find their gameplay and somebody will not have their drought. My drought will continue, though. So that's my feelings.
But I think that's what Tree is saying.
There's like, no mining in Pyro, Salty. You're not getting any new mining.
I quit.
The Akiro cluster is entirely barren. There's nothing for Salty here.
But I think that's the thing. It's like we're also not CIG's not slowing down with development. Like we're going in terms of content. Like we're going to have bounty hunting at some point. They're working on it. We know we've seen them working on it. We know they're working on Elliot has been big balls about him finally working on missions for cargo missions, so you can actually have those cargo mission chains. So like CIG's still building stuff. So even saying that like it'll be as bare bones as Stanton when it releases, we don't know what Stanton will look like when Pyro is releases. It may have more content, which will also be transferred over to Pyro. So but I think that's the point when it comes to like drought, is like your perspective on what drought is, but the fact that this thing happened will be seen as much of an advance. And will quell some of that negative opinion. The negative opinion will then go, well, cool, still nothing to do. I still don't have.
They'll find their way.
Yeah.
There'll be things, but like those things will be less important in the community as celebrating the accomplishment and then exploring those unique locations and stuff like that. So.
All right,
that's all I want.
We gotta fire through these last few questions, so I'm limiting everybody to 20-second answers. Oh, Morph, go ahead.
Ah, man. All right. Well, I want to say you asked for expectations for CitizenCon, and nobody answered that part of the question. So I was just a little bit surprised. I was gonna say I think I really do that they're going to talk about Squadron 42 and give a release date, because they can't legally sell it without a release date in, I think, at least Germany. So we should expect it. Will they meet that release date? That's a different discussion.
Yes,
but
I think that they'll release date.
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean anything.
Window.
I hope we don't get a date.
There are two.
You're going to get a date. You'll get a date.
We have to. Legally, we have. They have to do that. Otherwise, we can't sell it anymore.
Just give us a window, not a date.
I've had my tinfoil hat on for this one, but like there is a lot of stuff that's on the backside of CIG that's been moving and shaken. That I'm like, there's something going on with Squadron. They wouldn't be doing X, Y, or Z of that. So whatever it is,
Yeah.
I agree. I think there's going to be an announcement of a release date or some sort of major announcement in terms of progress that we haven't seen before. Beyond that, I can't tell you.
I think like I said, I think there has to be, because they took down the website. The reason was a legal reason for Squadron 42. They can't sell it without a release date in some countries. It has to have an actual date. So that's why I think that's going to happen for sure.
I have heard that was a debunked rumor though, so I don't know where it was, because I thought that too, and I had several members of the German community reach out and said that's not how that's that law.
Otherwise, why wouldn't they have removed it earlier if it's been for sale for all these years?
I think just has that maybe to do with somebody suing them. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
a complaint or whatever, but regardless, I think we're going to get a date.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question is Star Citizen supposed to have a career class system? Are we supposed to specialize into something like medical or mining, or is it just a free-for-all sandbox?
Free-for-all.
Do whatever you want.
Yep.
With reputation, I think will play a role in what you can do in your professions. They even said it, actually, multiple times.
How far you can go, how deep it goes, maybe, but you'll be able to do everything at the personal, the singles playership, and the multi-crew playership seems to be their kind of what would it be, recipe for gameplay systems, because the only two that we have technically are, I guess you can consider medical a third, but it's a salvage and mining, and they all have those I guess that type. So
game loops.
Yeah.
All right, how much is marketing contributing to the confusion in communication around the game?
This much.
The entire thing.
All of it.
Someone needs to put a leash on them.
Bro, there's so many problems too. It's like community, marketing, and video production are all three different things that clearly don't talk to each other when they're all supposed to be the same thing.
Yeah, sort of. Marketing and community usually are separate. Speaking from my experience in marketing, they tend to not talk to each other a lot. Community, PR is in marketing maybe. But at the same time, there definitely seems to be some decisions that are made by marketing without consulting or without understanding its community impact. And the video production team is just wanting to make cool videos. So there's definitely some weird things there. And I think there's some mistakes that have been made, especially around running ads on YouTube, which they should learn from, which I don't know if they have.
They got some problems with their marketing.
They're still playing. I'm still seeing the comments in my YouTube videos. How ironic is this that I'm watching this video of Mike saying this and it says playable now in the video, in the ad before I watched it, literally this week.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, dude.
Annoying.
What are you doing?
Okay.
YouTube ads are that cheap, I guess.
They are super cheap. Holy God, they're cheap. I can't explain to you how much cheap they are.
Well, YouTube's got a problem with their
ads.
Yeah, they've got problems, but we won't get into that. That's a conversation. What if there's no update on server meshing because development has actually been going smoother than expected for 4.0 to stay on track, and they are waiting for the reveal of their progress for CitizenCon?
Brother, can you give me some of that hope?
Everybody leaned back in their chair. Like
we did it at the same time, Mike.
Can we get some opium? Whatever you have, please inject it into my veins, my dude.
Oh my God, dude is chugging that copium.
The only thing with server meshing is you can see that there are a lot of people working on these things from different disciplines, from different teams. I just want to know what that means. Just update me on it. That's all I need.
Yep.
You know, even I don't have that much optimism.
if things are going well, they can't shut the fuck up. All right, that's the thing about CIG.
I heard you talk about how he's got no content. He would be all over it. Like, come on,
for sure.
So silly.
There's your answers. Lean back in the chair. Oh, like you guys planned it. That was funny.
It was simultaneous. It wasn't influencing each other. We just both did it.
All right.
It's so cute that you guys are so in sync.
How much of the low frame rates? You guys are all synced up, ready to go.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
How much of the low frame rates we experience do you think are as a result of technical debt? Is there still time for them to turn it around? Oh God. Ending with, imagine this was developed in Unreal Engine.
Okay, dude. There's my answer.
Man.
Okay, dude.
More leaning back.
This again. I just quick that it doesn't matter what engine they chose. That wasn't an option back then. It wasn't necessarily better than CryEngine. They had people from CryEngine. They would still have an enormous amount of issues. CryEngine is just an engine is just a base to start with. You still have to program massive amounts of things on top of it to make it an actual game. They'd still have problems today. It's about the manpower, the sheer quantity of stuff they need to develop is enormous.
I actually missed,
and that's the problem.
I missed part of the question when they said low frame rates we experience as a result of technical debt. They put in parentheses the old engine, so they're asking specifically if this is a problem with the engine that's causing all of this, I guess, and if Unreal would be better.
Things will get. We have Gen 12. Vulkan is not in. They explicitly told us that Gen 12 is the on the way to get to Vulkan, but Gen 12 only optimizes the render thread. Vulkan is what will optimize the main thread. That's the big issue. Yep. There's also a lot of optimizations. What's the 10 pound 42? Go watch his video. He has a good recent video on all the things you can do to optimize your system for Star Citizen to make it run better. But then Level Cap did a great video talking basically about this question in the last 2 weeks. And so I would highly encourage you to go check that out, because there's a reason that CIG has their own engine team, their own graphics team. It's because they own the engine and they can do whatever they want with it. And so there's nothing about Unreal and Unreal 5 that they can't bring into their own engine because they have the people to do it. If you have to license your engine from someone else, you are beholden to them for support, and you are beholden to what your contract allows you to do to that engine for your game. And so then you have a lot of hands tying. Their hands are not tied. It's just a matter of manpower and time and effort. And so Vulkan's going to make a big difference. Gen 12 made a big difference for a lot of people.
And it wasn't supposed to, they said. They said it wasn't really supposed to give that big of a performance increase.
And there's still lots of optimizations to do, but it's a matter of getting the base tech in first and then optimizing it. And they're chugging along. What's the name of that dev who did all the video talks on Gen 12?
Sylvan.
The guy who wants
Sylvan,
Sylvan, who wants VR, who's working on the ray tracing and what's the lighting? They're working on all these big things for. What is going on? You got Mothra came over from Hong Kong and is now attacking Taiwan. And
mosquito.
The ray tracing and oh gosh, what's the other thing that they're talking? They're literally prototyping it right now for all the lighting in
global illumination
and global loom. Thank you. Yeah, you talked about it recently, Space Tomato. There's no cap on what they can do with the engine now because they have all the rights they need to it, and they have their own people who specialize in this working on it for them. So it's just a matter of it's not if, it's just when.
Yep.
I think we can expect to see some great things from the engine as well. I mean, Vulkan is supposed to. I remember them having a talk at one point, about how it was going to be the difference of how many entities could be on screen from then the thousands to the tens of thousands. Like, it was a huge increase in performance for what you could see on the screen. And I know they're already talking about doing. It was in one of the monthly reports. Global GI VR V-Ray, which is going to make the lighting a lot better looking as well. It's going to bring it up to like a more next gen level again. So I mean, it's not. I think that we're still waiting on that improvement that they've been working on for Vulkan integration to get that, but really good performance increase.
Okay, we got 2 more questions. Answer these as serious or not as you will. First one is, how far do you guys think we are from AI life forms on a large scale?
What do you mean? I'm not sure what he means.
Yeah, I don't know what the context is.
If he's referencing fauna, like creatures, probably at minimum a year. Depends on when Squadron 42 comes out, because a lot of the fauna they're working on right now is Squadron 42. They've talked about like a dog and stuff like that, and
didn't they want to put a crab in with 4.0 though?
Pyro. Pyro
With
crab.
Pyro, I would think that maybe they won't. I mean, but I thought they wanted to bring that with 4.0. Maybe it won't be in.
There was like a cow too. Something like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if those AI behaviors are complex and are blocked by server meshing, kind of like the combat AI.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The way I see it, Fauna's not coming until normal human NPCs can do things correctly. So I assume that's not happening till after server meshing.
Yeah. Would anyone care if they remove them all from the landing zones?
It'd be a bit weird.
It'd be weird, yeah, but no.
I mean, is it any less weird than them all standing on chairs, having like cult meetings in the middle of a hallway and stuff?
I mean, at least I feel like there's a cult in the city instead of nobody at all.
Okay. Yeah. I was curious what you guys felt about it.
I just want them to be able to talk to one another. I don't care if they're T-posing on chairs, if they're having conversations that somewhat, even just talking to make the background, because it's so quiet. Like anyone who's been to a city or an airport or like a place where humans congregate knows that they're not quiet. They're very loud. So
we're annoying in numbers.
Yeah.
We're awful.
We are.
Okay. Last question. This one is for you, SaltEMike. Why do you complain about Star Citizen so much? At least it isn't pay to win? Curious.
Oh, that's a troll.
Like that's a bait.
It's troll.
Yeah. Did you? I think it's related to Yogi's post this morning. If you guys haven't seen that, he said that Star Citizen is not a pay to win game, and it was like, what? There's many definitions of that, but it's in relations to ships. It was just very concerning to me to see something like that when his job is around balance, and if he's coming from the notion that everything is perfectly balanced and fine with the current situation, I think that's sort of problematic. But why I complain all the time, I don't. You just like to hear about the complaints.
Yeah,
you just focus on it. I think if you actually listen to some of the things today, I thought I was relatively optimistic and pretty happy with things. So you hear what you want to hear. I can't protect you from not listening.
Dude,
sorry.
Like literally in a single YouTube thread, I've been told I was negative and too positive in the same thread. Like
yeah, it's so stupid.
It's the reality is I think I've gained the reputation as being a white knight for CIG, and no one has seen the hour-long discussions, or I should say rants that I've done on what CIG is screwed up on and what they need to fix.
And you've shown none of that here at all in terms of like, I think you've been, just balanced like any other human being is. They have things they like, they have things they don't, and people already try to put us in like political, like red and blue. It's like insane here.
I think the reality is that we have different ways. We all have different ways of presenting our content, and we're trying to differentiate ourselves, to make ourselves interesting and unique. So we'll pull out ideas that we think will get clicks, or things that people will be interested in, or discussions that we want to have, and frame it in a way that people want to have it. As a result, people tend to put us in boxes because they see a thumbnail. And that's the reality is
it's the thumbnail always, and the title. That's what people respond to.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I said that was the last question, but I promise this is the last one. Okay. On improving communication, is there a way they could do that without impacting dev attention? Maybe small questionnaires on hot topics, have each team just give a smiley or frowny face in response to questions and stuff. What do you think?
They need more community team members. They need someone who can chase down somebody at the team and be like, "Yo, what's the status?" That's what they need. They need
like
more
shadow
people.
them a bit, like stay with them and just kind of like let them work and kind of see what's going on.
Yeah,
I don't know what so much stuff to Spectrum only. If you're going to put out dev information and development information, it needs to be on the social media or linked from the social media and talked about in ISC. But there's so much information that ends up from dev Spectrum posts, and so many people avoid Spectrum like the plague. That is not a good way to share good and accurate information, because unless you constantly watch your Star Citizen news feed, or the dev tracker, you miss out on all this stuff. It's not a good way to communicate effectively with a community that's literally a couple million people, if not larger. If you
approach doesn't work very well when you're spraying it everywhere. You need to have a consistent post. Yeah.
if you want to communicate that stuff, you need to be able to highlight it via your social media. And I love Galaxical. I think she does a great job. But I think that, if, that all the Master Modes conversation over the last 24 hours that's been going on, the only people who see that are the people who are paying direct attention to it.
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and so
I'm only hearing about this now.
Yeah, you are flying via Master Modes under the radar with your communication, and you can't have that.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly with the ISC thing, and that's why I made that discussion of these three branches being completely separated from each other. That makes no sense. You're all communication platforms that your community engages with and learns information from. They should all be synced, and they're not, and it's so stupid.
ISC
they need to be synced like Salty and Marf.
Yeah. ISC has faltered, I think, a bit this year in missing the mark on what they're supposed to be communicating. Things like
production value, fantastic, great.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. You've also hired more people, but where's the all we get is stupid B-roll that it has no value. In a lot of ways, adding to.
I find it more of the development.
I love the B-roll.
It's entertaining. I love the B-roll.
Yeah.
I do. It's good, but
it's just not information.
If we also had the other aspects that Tree was pointing out, then it's a totally fine.
Yeah,
I think it adds incorrect context too much too. It can be fun, but I think it's also very problematic. So
the B-roll is great, but it would be great to see the actual development B-roll, like like what we saw with hole munching, rather than examples and visual conceptualizations.
They started putting the B-roll in, and I was like, just leave it. This was the perfect episode up to the first half. I thought it was so good.
I think that asking for them to put B-roll in of the actual development versus talking to them and then supporting it with some concept footage, there's going to be a problem with them asking for that, because they're going to be like, well, I don't think this is presentable, so I have to spend some time whipping this up. I don't have time. We won't do it. So then they don't even talk about it. So I actually kind of would like for them to at least talk about it. And maybe have a little bit of supporting footage if it's even just made by the video production team, just kind of making it sort of like they want it, versus just not having it at all, because that's the way I'm looking at it. Obviously, I'd love for them to show us what they got, but I don't think they want to show us unpolished stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, guys, that's it for our questions. Thank you so much for sitting through this is a freaking mammoth episode of the podcast and the questions. A lot of good discussion. I hope people get a lot out of it. But thank you all very much for giving me such a huge chunk of your day. Hope you've enjoyed this. And as always, if you ever want to do anything else, please reach out. But thanks again for being here, guys. Everybody in chat, thank you so much for coming and viewing this live. Folks, if you're watching this after the fact, the podcast will be up on the same channel, so go check that out, or give this one another listen through, because you didn't get to hear all of our amazing opinions and wonderful voices, and that great dual reaction from Mike and Morph. That was chef's kiss on that one.
Tell me somebody clipped it. I need to see that.
Yeah, we got the
I'm
clip.
sure they got it.
We got the clip.
And big thanks to Mrs. Tomato for all her hard work behind the scenes. So.
Oh yes, she's out here.
Tree, it was nice
birthday.
to meet you for the first time. I don't know if
What's that?
I said, Tree, it was nice to meet you for the first time.
Oh yeah,
likewise. Yeah, big time fan, long time listener, however that goes. But I really appreciate what you guys do. Love your content. Have loved your content for a long time. So it's an honor to be here as the backup quarterback to the other bald guy in the community.
And I appreciated your insight on the show. I thought it was really good. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Tree.
Yeah.
I'm blushing. Can you see me blush?
I will make the plug that y'all should be watching. Everyone here should be watching Tree's stuff, because they're criminally underrated. He did an entire video on breaking down what the next big combat ship, next capital ship, would likely be, and he brought the receipts. He slapped down the receipts and be like, this. So and he's got a lot of these criminally underrated videos for that. So please do.
Shameless plug. I need 2 more subs on YouTube to get monetized with ads.
Make it happen.
And all my monetization goes to charity. I take no money for myself. I do all right on my civilian job.
I mean, drop that link in chat real quick.
Yeah, link in chat. Yeah. Let's go give them subs.
Oh, gosh.
Let's get 200.
Now I have to do it.
Oh, and also, guys, if you haven't liked Tomato's video yet, what are you doing? Come on.
It does help.
Yeah.
It does help. Although this one will be private because this podcast is coming out on the YouTube channel at the beginning of this week or next week.
Like him anyway. Like it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It already said 1K
like
subs by the time I got there. Damn it.
There you go.
Congrats,
there you go.
Tree.
All right, Tree, cool. Well, I mean, Tree is one of many channels that are not getting as much attention as they should for Star Citizen. There's a lot of information and stuff to compile and put together. So a lot of people are taking it from different angles. Tree, of course, is also taking a unique approach. So definitely check that out if you're interested in this content. Check out all these guys.
Is everyone here going to be at CitizenCon?
Yes.
I will not.
I will.
Okay. Sweet.
I'm the
See
only
you
one.
4 out of 5.
Yeah. Yeah, check out everybody here if you want to get more Star Citizen content. And thank you so much for being here, folks. I'm going to go ahead and pass y'all on to Loken, another streamer here on Star Citizen who's playing, doing his stuff. Yeah, a fellow info runner. So enjoy that, everybody on Twitch. Thank you again so much, everyone, for coming and watching and hanging out. Hope you had a great time. And on YouTube, I think I can send you over to... nobody's playing Star Citizen. Look at that. Surprise.
Surprised.
It's almost the same story every single day. So yeah, YouTube, sorry guys, y'all are just gonna have to settle with the ending screen. But thank you again, everybody, for coming. Hope you had a great time. We'll catch you next time.